Imagine a world ruled by creatures so massive, so fierce, and so diverse that even the largest predators today would seem small in comparison. For over 160 million years, dinosaurs dominated the Earth, evolving into some of the most extraordinary species ever to walk, fly, or swim across our planet. But despite their ancient origins, these prehistoric giants continue to captivate our imagination and inspire countless questions. How did they live? What did they really look like? And most intriguingly, what fascinating secrets are we still uncovering about them? In this video, we're diving deep into the most fascinating prehistoric dinosaur facts, stories that will both surprise and amaze you. From mind-blowing revelations about their size and intelligence, to the ongoing mysteries surrounding their extinction, we'll explore how dinosaurs weren't just colossal lizards, but complex creatures with incredible adaptations. Did you know that some dinosaurs had feathers, or that their social behaviors might rival that of modern-day animals? You'll also discover how recent fossil findings are rewriting everything we thought we knew, from their colorful appearances to the way they communicated and even cared for their young. What environmental conditions allowed the first dinosaurs to evolve and outcompete other prehistoric life forms? The rise of dinosaurs wasn't just a product of evolutionary chance. It was deeply tied to the unique environmental conditions of the late Triassic period, approximately 230 million years ago. During this time, Earth's landscape was dominated by the supercontinent Pangaea, which created vast, sweeping environmental extremes. With Pangaea's size and position stretching across nearly all latitudes, the planet experienced long, dry seasons, minimal rainfall, and wide temperature fluctuations between day and night. These harsh conditions created a hostile environment for much of the life on Earth, but it also opened up ecological niches that the earliest dinosaurs could exploit. One of the major environmental changes that played a role in dinosaur evolution was the increase in volcanic activity. This period saw extensive volcanic eruptions that released carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, leading to a warmer global climate and fluctuating oxygen levels. These shifts in the environment proved too difficult for many of the Earth's dominant species, but dinosaurs, particularly the early theropods, thrived. Their physiology adapted to this low oxygen environment. Their highly efficient lungs allowed them to process air more effectively than their reptilian competitors. This respiratory efficiency gave them an advantage in the oxygen-poor atmosphere, allowing them to grow larger, faster, and with greater endurance than other animals. Dinosaurs also benefited from their upright posture. Unlike many early reptiles which sprawled low to the ground, the first dinosaurs stood erect with limbs positioned directly beneath their bodies. This upright stance was crucial for several reasons. First, it allowed for more efficient locomotion, enabling dinosaurs to move faster and cover more ground in search of food and water. In a world where resources were often scarce and scattered, this mobility was vital for survival. Second, the upright posture gave dinosaurs a higher vantage point, allowing them to see over vegetation and spot predators or prey from a distance. The dry, extreme climates of Pangaea also meant that dinosaurs had to adapt to diverse habitats. Early dinosaurs like Eoraptor and Herrerasaurus were small and agile, able to navigate rocky, arid landscapes while hunting for prey. Their relatively small size and light bones allowed them to thrive in these tough environments where larger, more cumbersome reptiles struggled. This early adaptability to different environmental challenges set dinosaurs apart from other prehistoric life forms and established them as dominant creatures in the evolving ecosystems of the late Triassic. In summary, it wasn't just luck that allowed the dinosaurs to rise to dominance. A combination of harsh environmental changes, including extreme climates, volcanic activity, and fluctuating oxygen levels, created an evolutionary pressure cooker. Dinosaurs, with their efficient respiratory systems, upright posture, and agility, were perfectly suited to thrive in this challenging world. As other species struggled to adapt, dinosaurs evolved rapidly, filling ecological niches and laying the groundwork for their reign that would last for over 150 million years. How did the earliest dinosaurs adapt to different habitats, and what does this reveal about their survival strategies? The earliest dinosaurs exhibited remarkable adaptability, allowing them to thrive across the diverse landscapes of Pangaea. As this supercontinent stretched across various climates and regions, dinosaurs encountered drastically different environments, from dry deserts to lush forests, and each group developed specialized traits to survive in these unique settings. In the arid regions, speed and agility became critical for survival. Small, bipedal theropods like Coelophysis, among the earliest known dinosaurs, adapted by evolving strong hind limbs that allowed them to outrun predators or chase prey over vast distances. These agile creatures often lived in areas where food sources were scarce and widely scattered, so covering large territories quickly was essential. Their lightweight build and keen eyesight helped them hunt for small reptiles and early mammals, demonstrating a predator's ability to adapt to open, unforgiving terrain. By contrast, herbivorous dinosaurs like Plateosaurus thrived in more temperate regions where vegetation was plentiful. These plant-eaters developed long necks to browse higher in trees, allowing them access to food sources that ground-dwelling animals couldn't reach. Their bulky bodies housed large, fermenting stomachs that could process tough, fibrous plants, ensuring they could sustain themselves even in regions where the nutrient content of plants was low. This diet specialization reduced direct competition with other herbivores and increased their chances of survival in challenging environments. Dinosaurs that lived in wetter regions, particularly those near swamps or lakes, adapted in different ways. For instance, early armored dinosaurs like Scutellosaurus evolved with body armor that may have offered protection not just from predators, but also from the thick undergrowth of marshy environments. Their shorter legs and more grounded posture could have helped them navigate the dense, waterlogged landscapes where agility wasn't as crucial but durability was key. These adaptations also reflect a broader survival strategy. Dinosaurs weren't limited to one habitat or niche. Instead, they displayed ecological flexibility, colonizing a wide range of habitats and developing specific traits that allowed them to exploit each new environment. In essence, this adaptability meant that dinosaurs could respond to changing climates, food shortages, or even increased predator pressure by spreading into new regions and evolving accordingly. It was this dynamic versatility that not only helped them survive, but also dominate the ecosystems of Pangaea. This adaptability also reveals something important about the survival strategies of the earliest dinosaurs. They weren't necessarily the strongest or the largest creatures in their ecosystems, but they were flexible. This ability to evolve quickly, to occupy new niches, and to make the most of their surroundings was a defining trait that would lead to their success over the next 150 million years. By mastering a variety of environments, from dry deserts to dense forests, dinosaurs ensured their place as the dominant life forms of their time. Could multiple factors such as volcanic activity and changing climates have played a larger role in the dinosaurs' extinction than the asteroid impact alone? The extinction of the dinosaurs is one of Earth's most perplexing mysteries, and while the asteroid impact at Chicxulub has traditionally been seen as the main culprit, recent research suggests a far more complex scenario. Many scientists now propose that a combination of catastrophic factors, particularly massive volcanic activity and gradual climate changes, may have played an equally significant role in the dinosaurs' demise, even before the asteroid delivered its final deadly blow. At the time of the asteroid impact, the Earth was already undergoing drastic environmental shifts. The Deccan Traps, located in what is now India, were experiencing one of the largest volcanic events in Earth's history. These massive eruptions, which occurred over tens of thousands of years, released colossal amounts of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide in particular would have altered the global climate dramatically, leading to long-term warming and the possibility of acid rain. This gradual environmental degradation would have destabilized ecosystems long before the asteroid struck. For dinosaurs living in these increasingly hostile conditions, life was becoming more precarious as they had to deal with shrinking habitats, less reliable food sources, and a changing atmosphere. Another factor potentially contributing to their extinction was sea level change. As volcanic activity heated the Earth, The ice caps may have melted, leading to rising sea levels that flooded coastal habitats where many dinosaurs lived. These shifts would have further disrupted ecosystems, pushing species already struggling under the weight of climate change to their limits. The combination of environmental stress from volcanic gases and sea level rise could have weakened dinosaur populations, making them more vulnerable to extinction when the asteroid hit. When the asteroid impact occurred, it delivered an almost unimaginable shock to the planet, but it's crucial to consider that dinosaurs were likely already in decline. The asteroid impact may have been the final tipping point in a process that was already well underway. Volcanic winter, caused by volcanic ash and debris thrown into the atmosphere, would have darkened skies for years, preventing plants from photosynthesizing. This led to a collapse in the food chain, starting with plant-eating dinosaurs and quickly affecting the predators that relied on them. The combined effects of the asteroid and the volcanic activity, both occurring within a short geological window, may have created the perfect storm that spelled the end for the dinosaurs. How do new discoveries about the Chicxulub crater challenge or reinforce our understanding of the extinction event? The Chicxulub crater is one of the most studied geological sites in the world, yet new findings continue to reshape our understanding of the asteroid impact and its aftermath. Located beneath the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, this crater measures about 150 kilometers in diameter, evidence of the massive force behind the asteroid's collision with Earth. Initially, it was believed that the asteroid alone triggered the mass extinction of dinosaurs. However, more recent studies of the crater have added complexity to this narrative, suggesting that while the impact was undeniably catastrophic, it may not have acted alone in wiping out the dinosaurs. One of the most important discoveries about the Chicxulub crater is the detailed timeline of what happened immediately after the impact. Core samples taken from the crater reveal that within minutes of the asteroid's collision, molten rock and vaporized material were ejected high into the atmosphere. This resulted in a nuclear winter effect. Temperatures plummeted as sunlight was blocked by the dust and debris. New research shows that this darkness may have lasted for years, plunging the Earth into a state of cold and starvation, as plants were unable to photosynthesize, leading to a collapse in the food chain. Moreover, scientists have found evidence of global wildfires sparked by the heat generated from the impact. Charred remains in fossil beds suggest that massive fires swept across large portions of the planet, further adding to the destruction caused by the initial blast. This finding reinforces the idea that the asteroid caused immediate devastation, but also highlights how prolonged and multifaceted the aftermath was. However, while these discoveries reinforce the catastrophic nature of the impact, they also reveal that the extinction event was not instantaneous. Fossils found in North Dakota, far from the Chicxulub impact site, suggest that some species may have survived for weeks or even months after the initial disaster. This challenges the notion that the asteroid alone was responsible for the rapid extinction of the dinosaurs. Instead, it supports the theory that the dinosaurs were already in decline due to environmental factors like volcanic activity and climate shifts, and that the asteroid impact simply accelerated an extinction process that was already underway. Thus, while the Chicxulub asteroid was undoubtedly the most significant immediate factor, the latest discoveries suggest that its role was part of a larger, more complex chain of events. The combination of volcanic activity, climate change, and the devastating aftermath of the asteroid created a perfect storm, sealing the fate of the dinosaurs and many other species. What does recent fossil evidence suggest about the hunting strategies and diet of Spinosaurus, and how might it have been different from T-Rex? Recent fossil discoveries have revolutionized our understanding of Spinosaurus, offering new insights into its hunting strategies and diet. For decades, Spinosaurus was primarily thought of as a land-based predator, similar to other large theropods like T-Rex. However, a 2014 discovery of more complete fossil remains from Morocco shifted this perception dramatically. It revealed Spinosaurus as a semi-aquatic dinosaur, uniquely adapted for life in and around water. Unlike the terrestrial T-Rex, Spinosaurus had a long, streamlined body, dense bones for buoyancy control, and a tail that likely helped it swim through rivers and lakes. Its elongated, crocodile-like jaws were filled with conical teeth, ideal for gripping slippery prey. This evidence suggests that Spinosaurus specialized in hunting large aquatic creatures, such as ancient sawfish, lungfish, and even giant coelacanths. Additionally, isotopic analyses of Spinosaurus teeth have shown chemical signatures indicating it spent much of its time in water, similar to modern-day crocodiles. This makes it unique among large theropods, as no other predator of its size is known to have been primarily aquatic. In contrast, T. rex, which roamed the plains of North America, was a pure land predator. Its diet consisted mainly of large herbivorous dinosaurs like Triceratops and Hadrosaurs. T. rex's powerful bone-crushing bite, capable of exerting a force of over 8,000 pounds per square inch, suggests it could take down large prey and even crush through bones to access marrow, a valuable source of nutrients. Fossil evidence also suggests T. rex may have scavenged carcasses when the opportunity arose, using its keen sense of smell to track down dead or dying animals over long distances. The stark differences in their diets highlight their vastly different ecological niches. Spinosaurus was adapted to life along riverbanks and swamps, thriving in the waterways of prehistoric North Africa, while T. rex dominated the open plains of Cretaceous North America, where its bulk and power were suited to taking down massive terrestrial prey. Spinosaurus was likely more specialized in hunting aquatic creatures, while T. rex was an all-around predator relying on both its size and brute force to dominate on land. Could T. rex's bone-crushing bite have been enough to overpower Spinosaurus in a direct confrontation? Or would Spinosaurus's size and aquatic abilities give it an edge? In a hypothetical showdown between T. rex and Spinosaurus, the outcome would depend heavily on the environment in which the battle took place. One of T. rex's most formidable weapons was its bite force, the most powerful of any land animal that has ever lived. With its immense jaw strength, T. rex could crush bone with ease, making quick work of its prey. Its teeth were not only designed for piercing flesh, but also for pulverizing the bones of its victims, giving it access to the rich marrow within. If T. rex were to land a solid bite on Spinosaurus, particularly in a vulnerable area like the neck or spine, it could likely deliver a lethal blow. However, Spinosaurus was not without its advantages. Standing as one of the largest carnivorous dinosaurs ever discovered, it could reach lengths of up to 18 meters, making it larger than T. rex, which averaged about 12 meters. While Spinosaurus's jaws were more suited to catching fish than delivering bone-crushing bites, its sheer size and powerful forelimbs could pose a serious threat in close combat. Spinosaurus also had long, hook-like claws, which it could potentially use to slash at its opponent, though these claws were primarily adapted for fishing rather than combat. One of Spinosaurus's most significant advantages, however, was its semi-aquatic nature. If the fight were to take place near water, Spinosaurus would have the upper hand. Its ability to swim and its comfort in aquatic environments would allow it to evade T. rex's more cumbersome movements on land. Spinosaurus could potentially retreat into deeper waters, where T. rex, with its terrestrial build, would struggle. In such an environment, Spinosaurus's agility in water could be a decisive factor. It could wait for the right moment to strike, using its jaws and claws to fend off its opponent while staying out of range of T. rex's devastating bite. On the other hand, in a purely terrestrial setting, T. rex would likely dominate. Its muscular legs were built for short bursts of speed, allowing it to charge at prey and land fatal bites before they could react. Additionally, T. rex's robust, heavily built frame would make it difficult for Spinosaurus to deal a fatal blow in return. While Spinosaurus had size on its side, its more lightly built skeleton, designed for swimming, would make it vulnerable to T. rex's overwhelming power on land. Ultimately, the victor of such a clash would come down to the location of the fight. On land, T. rex's powerful bite and muscular build would likely give it the edge. But in or near water, Spinosaurus's size, swimming ability, and agility would make it a more formidable opponent. The environment, more than anything else, would dictate the outcome of this ultimate predator showdown. How do new fossil findings of feathered dinosaurs challenge the traditional image of dinosaurs as purely reptilian creatures? For most of the 20th century, dinosaurs were depicted as slow-moving, scaly reptiles, resembling oversized lizards. However, recent fossil discoveries have dramatically shifted this image, revealing that many dinosaurs, particularly theropods, were actually feathered. The idea of feathered dinosaurs challenges the long-standing portrayal of these creatures as cold-blooded, scaly giants, and redefines our understanding of their biology, behavior, and even their connection to modern animals. The first major breakthrough came in the 1990s, when fossils of Sinosauropteryx, a small theropod dinosaur from China, were discovered with evidence of primitive feathers. These fossils, found in the famous Liaoning fossil beds, preserved not just bones but also the impressions of feather-like structures. While these early feathers likely didn't enable flight, they provided strong evidence that feathers evolved in dinosaurs long before birds. Over the past 2 decades, similar discoveries of feathered dinosaurs such as Velociraptor, Microraptor, and Archaeopteryx have continued to emerge, showing a clear evolutionary link between dinosaurs and birds. These feathers likely served multiple purposes, from insulation to display, and perhaps even aiding in gliding or limited flight in smaller species. Feathers also suggest a potential shift in our understanding of dinosaur metabolism. While traditional depictions assumed dinosaurs were cold-blooded like modern reptiles, feathers imply that some may have been warm-blooded, needing insulation to regulate body temperature in colder climates. This finding challenges long-held assumptions about how dinosaurs lived and survived. Feathered dinosaurs may have been more dynamic, fast-moving, and capable of complex behaviors like modern birds, rather than the sluggish giants once imagined. This is a significant shift in our view of the Mesozoic era, suggesting a world teeming with colorful, agile creatures, not just the gray, scaly behemoths depicted in early science. These findings also blur the line between birds and non-avian dinosaurs. Many paleontologists now consider birds to be direct descendants of theropod dinosaurs, making them the only surviving lineage of dinosaurs. This realization transforms how we see creatures like the T-Rex, not as distant, monstrous reptiles, but as more bird-like, possibly covered in a downy layer of feathers during their juvenile stages. The image of dinosaurs is becoming increasingly diverse, colorful, and complex, fundamentally altering our understanding of these ancient creatures and their ecosystems. What role might feathers have played in the survival and evolution of larger dinosaurs like the theropods? Feathers likely played multiple evolutionary roles for theropods, and perhaps even some of the larger dinosaurs. Initially, feathers may have evolved for thermal insulation. Fossil evidence from species like Eutyrannus, a large theropod from early Cretaceous China, shows that even some of the bigger dinosaurs had primitive feather coverings. This suggests that feathers were critical for surviving in colder climates or for maintaining body heat, particularly for younger or smaller individuals. In regions where temperatures fluctuated significantly, having a feathered coat would have provided a substantial survival advantage by helping dinosaurs regulate their body temperature, much like fur does for mammals today. But feathers likely had other functions beyond temperature regulation. One of the most compelling theories is that feathers were used for display, particularly in mating rituals or social dominance. Much like modern birds, which use colorful plumage to attract mates or ward off rivals, feathered dinosaurs may have used vibrant colors and elaborate feather arrangements for visual signaling. Species like Microraptor had iridescent feathers, similar to those of modern peacocks, suggesting that display behaviors were already highly developed in some theropods. This opens the possibility that sexual selection played a significant role in the evolution of feathers, with those sporting the most impressive displays being more likely to find mates and pass on their genes. Additionally, feathers could have provided some dinosaurs with an advantage in maneuverability. Smaller feathered species, such as Microraptor, are believed to have used their feathered limbs to glide between trees, much like modern flying squirrels. Even if larger dinosaurs didn't take to the air, feathers on limbs or tails could have helped with balance or stability while running. This would have been particularly useful for predators that needed to make quick turns while chasing prey. Feathers on larger theropods may have acted similarly to stabilizing rudders or flags during high-speed pursuits, helping them maintain balance and agility. Lastly, feathers may have played a role in protecting dinosaurs from predators. A layer of feathers, even if not used for flight, could have acted as a form of camouflage or added protection for more vulnerable body parts. In environments filled with predators, feathered dinosaurs might have blended into their surroundings or appeared larger and more threatening than they actually were, deterring potential threats. As feathers evolved and diversified in function, they may have become one of the critical evolutionary traits that allowed certain dinosaurs to thrive in a variety of environments, further cementing their dominance in prehistoric ecosystems. Through these various roles, feathers became a crucial part of dinosaur survival and evolution, contributing to their adaptability, reproductive success, and ability to thrive in diverse habitats. This evolutionary tool, while initially thought to be exclusive to birds, clearly had deep roots in the dinosaur lineage and was key to the success of theropods and other species. What adaptations allowed marine reptiles like mosasaurs to thrive in prehistoric oceans, and how did they differ from their land-dwelling dinosaur relatives? While dinosaurs ruled the land, the oceans of the Mesozoic era were dominated by a variety of marine reptiles that developed unique adaptations for survival in aquatic environments. One of the most formidable of these marine reptiles was the mosasaur, a top predator of the late Cretaceous seas. These creatures, often reaching lengths of over 15 meters, thrived in the ancient oceans thanks to several key adaptations that set them apart from their land-dwelling dinosaur relatives. Firstly, mosasaurs had streamlined bodies that were perfectly suited for an aquatic lifestyle. Unlike land dinosaurs, which were built for mobility on solid ground, mosasaurs evolved long, flexible bodies with paddle-like limbs and powerful tails. Their limbs, which once resembled terrestrial legs, had morphed into flippers, allowing them to navigate the open ocean with speed and precision. Their tails, equipped with a crescent-shaped fluke, provided thrust as they propelled themselves through the water, similar to modern-day sharks. This streamlined design made them incredibly efficient hunters, able to chase down fast-swimming prey such as fish, squid, and even other marine reptiles. Another key adaptation was their respiratory system. Like all reptiles, mosasaurs needed to surface to breathe air. However, their lungs were likely highly efficient, allowing them to stay submerged for long periods while hunting. This would have been crucial in the vast, predator-filled oceans, where surfacing too frequently could expose them to danger or cause them to lose their prey. Their powerful jaws and conical teeth also evolved to seize slippery prey, much like modern-day crocodiles. Their double-hinged jaws, similar to those of snakes, allowed them to swallow prey whole, which made them even more formidable as apex predators in the ocean. Mosasaurs also had excellent sensory adaptations. Fossil evidence suggests that their large eyes were well suited for low-light conditions, such as the deep or murky waters where they hunted. This ability to detect prey in a variety of aquatic environments gave them a distinct advantage over slower or more visually limited animals. While land-dwelling dinosaurs relied on different senses, like the keen smell of a T-Rex, marine reptiles like mosasaurs depended on their vision and possibly even pressure-sensitive sensors along their jaws to detect movement in the water, much like modern sharks. These adaptations show how mosasaurs and other marine reptiles thrived in environments that were vastly different from the terrestrial ecosystems of dinosaurs. Their streamlined bodies, advanced respiratory systems, powerful jaws, and sensory adaptations enabled them to dominate the oceans, carving out a niche as the rulers of the prehistoric seas. In contrast, land dinosaurs evolved in response to entirely different environmental pressures, such as the need to support massive weight on land or to efficiently hunt or graze in varying landscapes. The oceans, however, required a completely different set of tools for survival, and marine reptiles like mosasaurs evolved to meet those challenges with stunning effectiveness. Why have marine reptiles like plesiosaurs and mosasaurs often been left out of the public's fascination with dinosaurs? And what does that tell us about popular science? Despite their fearsome nature and dominance in prehistoric oceans, marine reptiles like mosasaurs and plesiosaurs have often been overshadowed by their land-dwelling dinosaur counterparts in the public imagination. One reason for this may be the sheer spectacle and familiarity of the dinosaurs that walked on land. Iconic species like T-Rex, Triceratops, and Velociraptor capture the imagination with their imposing size and ferocity. Films like Jurassic Park and various dinosaur exhibits have consistently focused on terrestrial dinosaurs, reinforcing the idea that these creatures were the central figures of the Mesozoic era. This media representation has shaped how the general public views prehistoric life, often leading people to equate dinosaurs exclusively with land animals, despite the fact that the oceans teemed with equally fascinating and fearsome creatures. Another contributing factor is the relative scarcity of well-preserved marine reptile fossils compared to those of land dinosaurs. While the fossil beds of North America and Asia have provided a wealth of dinosaur remains, marine reptiles often lived in environments where fossilization was less likely, or their remains were scattered across the seafloor. The fewer fossil discoveries of creatures like plesiosaurs and mosasaurs may have led to less scientific and public attention despite their critical role in the prehistoric food chain. In popular science, the focus on land-dwelling dinosaurs over marine reptiles may also reflect a broader tendency to focus on familiar or relatable environments. People generally have a stronger connection to land-based animals, which seem more relatable and immediate. Ocean life, while fascinating, feels more alien and distant to many people, even today. The deep sea remains largely unexplored, adding a layer of mystery and unfamiliarity that may make marine reptiles less accessible to the general public. This skewed focus tells us a lot about how popular science is often shaped by cultural narratives and media representation rather than scientific reality. Marine reptiles like plesiosaurs and mosasaurs were every bit as important and dominant in their ecosystems as T-Rex was on land. But their relative absence in public imagination reflects how certain prehistoric creatures are marketed and perceived. As paleontology continues to uncover more about the lives of marine reptiles, perhaps they will begin to take their rightful place in the broader story of prehistoric life, capturing the imagination alongside their land-based counterparts. How do fossilized remains of raptor brains provide insight into their cognitive abilities, and what does this suggest about their intelligence compared to other dinosaurs? Fossilized skulls of raptors, particularly species like Velociraptor and Deinonychus, have provided significant insight into their brain structure and, by extension, their cognitive abilities. Thanks to advanced technology such as CT scans, paleontologists can now create detailed models of the internal brain cavities of these creatures, allowing for comparisons with modern animals. Raptors had relatively large brains for their body size, especially when compared to other dinosaurs. This larger brain-to-body ratio is often used as an indicator of intelligence in animals today, such as birds and mammals, which suggests that raptors were likely among the most intelligent of the dinosaurs. One specific area of the raptor brain that has been closely studied is the encephalization quotient, EQ, which measures brain size relative to the body. Raptors had a higher EQ than many of their dinosaur contemporaries, which likely contributed to more advanced problem-solving skills, complex hunting strategies, and possibly even social behavior. Evidence from their brain structure shows that they had large olfactory bulbs, indicating a highly developed sense of smell as well as well-developed optic lobes, which suggest they had excellent vision. These traits would have been essential for a predator that relied on stalking and ambushing prey, as it required keen senses and fast reflexes. Additionally, the amygdala, the part of the brain associated with emotions and decision-making, appears to have been fairly large in raptors, suggesting they could have exhibited more complex behaviors than other dinosaurs. These features have led scientists to believe that raptors may have engaged in cooperative hunting, perhaps even communicating with one another during a hunt. The intelligence of raptors may not have been on par with modern mammals or birds, but compared to other dinosaurs, their cognitive abilities were likely far more advanced. Could the depiction of raptors in Jurassic Park as coordinated pack hunters be more fiction than fact? And what does actual evidence say about their social behavior? The depiction of velociraptors in Jurassic Park as cunning, pack-hunting predators has captivated audiences, but it may be more fiction than fact. While Hollywood has exaggerated certain aspects of raptor behavior for dramatic effect, there is some fossil evidence that supports the idea that these dinosaurs might have hunted in groups, though not necessarily in the highly coordinated fashion seen on screen. One key piece of evidence comes from trackways, or fossilized footprints, that suggest groups of Deinonychus moved together. However, the extent to which these dinosaurs cooperated during a hunt remains a matter of debate. Modern predators that hunt in packs like wolves exhibit complex social structures and communication, but such behavior requires a level of intelligence and social organization that may have been beyond the capabilities of raptors. There's no conclusive evidence that raptors coordinated their attacks with the same level of precision as modern-day pack hunters. Instead, some paleontologists suggest that raptors may have engaged in opportunistic group hunting, where individuals would swarm a prey animal, each trying to secure a kill for themselves, rather than working together in a tightly coordinated effort. This behavior is observed in modern reptiles like Komodo dragons, where groups gather around large prey, but there is no real cooperation. This opportunistic behavior may explain the fossil evidence of raptors found near the remains of large herbivores like Dinosaurs, which they may have brought down collectively. Additionally, raptors in Jurassic Park are shown to be much larger than they were in real life. The velociraptors depicted in the films are modeled after the larger Deinonychus, but even these were smaller and less imposing than their Hollywood counterparts. This exaggeration, along with the emphasis on intelligence and pack hunting, has created a somewhat mythical image of the raptor, blending fact with fiction. While raptors were certainly formidable and possibly more intelligent than many dinosaurs, their real behavior likely falls somewhere between what science suggests and what the movies portray. What do the strange fossils known as the Tully monster tell us about how little we still know about the diversity of life during the time of the dinosaurs? The Tully monster is one of the most confounding and mysterious fossils ever discovered, shedding light on how much we still don't know about life on Earth during the age of the dinosaurs. First unearthed in the Mazon Creek fossil beds in Illinois in 1958, this creature lived approximately 300 million years ago, predating the dinosaurs but sharing ecosystems with their early ancestors. What makes the Tully monster so strange is its bizarre anatomy, which defies any easy classification. With a soft, torpedo-shaped body, stalk-like eyes protruding from its head, and a long, trunk-like appendage ending in a claw, this creature doesn't resemble any animal living today. Its appearance is so alien that scientists have debated for decades whether it was a vertebrate, an invertebrate, or something entirely unique. The mystery of the Tully monster underscores the fact that despite the significant fossil record we've uncovered, our knowledge of prehistoric life is still deeply incomplete. Most of the attention tends to focus on the charismatic dinosaurs that walked the land, but there were entire ecosystems, especially in marine and swampy environments, filled with creatures that we still know very little about. The Tully monster's odd features serve as a reminder that the ancient world was filled with a much greater variety of life forms than we might imagine, many of which have left behind few or no fossil records. Fossils like the Tully monster challenge the traditional narrative that most prehistoric creatures were similar to today's animals. Instead, it opens the door to the possibility that prehistoric ecosystems were home to a wider range of body plans and life strategies, many of which have no modern analogues. The debate over the Tully monster's classification also speaks to a broader issue in paleontology. The fossil record is inherently biased. Hard-bodied creatures like dinosaurs fossilize more easily than soft-bodied creatures, which means that we have a much clearer understanding of the animals that had bones and shells than those that didn't. The Tully monster, a rare example of soft tissue preservation, suggests that entire categories of life forms are missing from the fossil record simply because they weren't fossilized well. Despite multiple studies, including a 2016 study suggesting it might have been a vertebrate related to lampreys, there is still no consensus on what the Tully monster actually was. This ongoing mystery highlights the gaps in our understanding of life during the time of the dinosaurs. As advanced as modern paleontology is, fossils like the Tully monster remind us that there is still so much more to discover. These puzzles challenge the limits of our current knowledge and spark curiosity about what else remains hidden in the fossil record. The Tully monster is emblematic of the diversity of life forms that once populated the Earth, many of which are still mysteries to us. It's a humbling reminder that while we may know a lot about iconic dinosaurs like T-Rex and Triceratops, the prehistoric world was much richer and more varied than we can fully comprehend. Could the discovery of soft tissues in dinosaur fossils rewrite what we know about their biology and preservation, and how does it challenge existing theories? The discovery of soft tissues in dinosaur fossils has revolutionized our understanding of both the biology of dinosaurs and the process of fossilization. For many years, it was believed that organic materials such as skin, muscle, and blood vessels could not survive the fossilization process, which typically takes millions of years. Fossils were thought to consist entirely of mineralized bone, with all soft tissue long decayed. However, in the early 2000s, paleontologist Mary Schweitzer made a stunning discovery. Within the fossilized bones of a Tyrannosaurus rex, she found structures that appeared to be preserved soft tissues, including blood vessels and possibly even proteins. This finding sparked a wave of excitement and controversy throughout the paleontological community. If soft tissues can indeed survive for millions of years, this could significantly change how we understand dinosaur biology. For example, soft tissues could allow scientists to study aspects of dinosaurs that were previously impossible to access, such as their growth rates, metabolic processes, and possibly even their genetic material. Although finding DNA in dinosaur fossils remains highly unlikely due to its rapid degradation over time, the preservation of proteins, collagen, and other biomolecules could offer unprecedented insights into their physiology. This would help answer long-standing questions, such as whether dinosaurs were warm-blooded or cold-blooded, how quickly they grew, and how their muscles and tendons were structured for movement. In addition to what it tells us about dinosaur biology, the preservation of soft tissues also challenges our understanding of fossilization itself. Traditionally, fossilization was thought to be a process that only preserved the hard parts of animals, bones, shells, teeth, while the soft tissues decayed rapidly and were lost forever. However, Schweitzer's findings suggest that under certain conditions, organic materials can survive for much longer than previously thought. This has led to new research into how fossils form, with some scientists theorizing that rapid burial, low oxygen levels, and even the presence of iron, which may act as a preservative, could help protect soft tissues from decomposition. These discoveries force paleontologists to rethink what conditions are necessary for fossilization and open up the possibility that soft tissues might be more common than previously believed. However, the discovery has not been without controversy. Some scientists argue that what appears to be soft tissue could actually be biofilms, structures formed by bacteria that colonized the bones after the dinosaur's death. This debate has fueled further studies, and while there is growing evidence supporting the idea that some soft tissues have indeed survived, the topic remains hotly contested. Regardless of the outcome, these discoveries have prompted researchers to re-examine older fossils for signs of preserved soft tissues, potentially leading to even more groundbreaking finds in the future. The implications of soft tissue discoveries go beyond just a better understanding of dinosaurs. They also raise the tantalizing possibility of extracting molecular information that could reshape our knowledge of prehistoric life. While cloning dinosaurs remains firmly in the realm of science fiction, the idea that we could learn more about their biology by studying proteins and other preserved molecules is a scientific breakthrough in its own right. Whether it's unraveling how dinosaurs grew or how they moved, soft tissue fossils could hold the key to answering some of the most enduring questions about these ancient giants. What specific anatomical features in birds today can be directly traced back to their dinosaur ancestors? And how does this affect the way we classify them? Birds are the living descendants of certain groups of theropod dinosaurs, and the anatomical features that they share with their prehistoric ancestors provide fascinating insights into evolutionary biology. Many traits that we associate with modern birds, such as feathers, hollow bones, and even the wishbone, can be traced back to dinosaurs like Velociraptor and Archaeopteryx. These connections fundamentally shift how we classify birds, leading many scientists to view them not as a separate group but as modern-day dinosaurs. One of the most striking anatomical features linking birds and dinosaurs is the presence of feathers. While feathers were once thought to be unique to birds, fossils of feathered dinosaurs, such as Sinosauropteryx and Microraptor, show that feathers evolved long before the first true birds took flight. These feathers likely served multiple functions in dinosaurs, including insulation, display for attracting mates, and even possibly aiding in gliding. Over time, some of these feathered theropods evolved into the first birds, with flight becoming an additional use for their feathered appendages. This discovery blurs the lines between dinosaurs and birds, suggesting that birds are essentially feathered dinosaurs that survived the mass extinction at the end of the Cretaceous period. Another key feature is the wishbone, furcula, a bone that plays a crucial role in bird flight. This fused clavicle bone was once believed to be unique to birds, but fossil evidence shows that it existed in theropod dinosaurs long before birds appeared. The wishbone helped support the muscles needed for the powerful flapping motion required for flight. While not all theropods were capable of flight, the presence of this bone in their anatomy provides a direct evolutionary link to birds, emphasizing the gradual evolution of flight from non-avian dinosaurs to their avian descendants. Additionally, the hollow bones of birds, designed to be light yet strong, are another feature inherited from their dinosaur ancestors. Theropod dinosaurs had similar adaptations, which may have helped them become more agile and faster hunters. These hollow bones not only allowed early birds to take to the skies, but also made large theropods more efficient on land, providing a dual evolutionary advantage across different species. The shared skeletal structure between birds and dinosaurs helps scientists piece together the evolutionary transition from land-dwelling theropods to flying birds. The classification of birds as avian dinosaurs fundamentally changes our understanding of evolution. Rather than viewing birds as a completely separate class of animals, paleontologists now place them within the Dinosauria clade, making them direct descendants of theropods. This reclassification highlights how evolution is a continuous process, with traits being passed down and modified over millions of years. Birds, in essence, are living dinosaurs, carrying with them the genetic legacy of their prehistoric ancestors. As we learn more about these anatomical connections, our understanding of both the past and present animal life deepens, showcasing the incredible adaptability of life on Earth. How did the transition from land-dwelling dinosaurs to flying creatures like early birds occur, and what evolutionary pressures drove this change? The transition from land-dwelling dinosaurs to flying creatures like early birds is one of the most remarkable evolutionary transformations in Earth's history. This shift didn't happen overnight, but was the result of millions of years of gradual adaptations driven by various environmental and ecological pressures. The dinosaurs that gave rise to birds, known as theropods, were primarily bipedal predators. Over time, certain theropods began to evolve traits that would eventually lead to flight, driven by a combination of survival strategies such as avoiding predators, hunting prey, and finding new ecological niches. One of the earliest steps in this transition was the development of feathers. While feathers may have originally evolved for insulation or display, they eventually played a key role in the evolution of flight. Small theropods like Archaeopteryx had feathers on their forelimbs and tails, which may have been used for gliding from tree to tree. Gliding could have provided an advantage for these small dinosaurs, by allowing them to escape ground-based predators or reach new food sources like insects or small animals in the treetops. The ability to glide might have then evolved into more active forms of flight, as some species developed stronger wings and more aerodynamic bodies. In addition to feathers, other anatomical changes were necessary for the evolution of flight. Hollow bones, already present in many theropod dinosaurs, became lighter and more specialized in early birds, allowing for easier liftoff and sustained flight. These bones provided the necessary strength without the heavy weight that would have made flight impossible. The development of a keeled sternum, where flight muscles attach, gave early birds the power needed to flap their wings and propel themselves through the air. These changes didn't happen all at once, but were likely driven by selective pressures that favored individuals capable of some form of aerial movement. Environmental pressures played a critical role in this evolutionary shift, as forests became denser and more widespread during the late Jurassic and early Cretaceous periods. Small, agile animals that could move between the trees would have had an advantage. Dinosaurs that could leap or glide likely had better access to food and could avoid predators more easily. Over time, natural selection would have favored these traits, pushing some species toward more complex forms of flight. Additionally, flying may have allowed early birds to colonize new ecological niches, giving them access to food sources that were otherwise unavailable to their land-bound relatives. The transition to flight also allowed early birds to escape competition with larger theropod dinosaurs. As the land became dominated by massive predators and herbivores, smaller species may have found survival opportunities in the skies, away from the crowded and dangerous ground environments. Over millions of years, this ability to escape into the air solidified the evolutionary split between ground-dwelling theropods and the ancestors of modern birds. In conclusion, the evolution of flight in dinosaurs was a gradual process shaped by the development of feathers, skeletal adaptations, and changing environmental conditions. What began as simple gliding likely evolved into powered flight, allowing these creatures to access new resources and avoid threats. These evolutionary pressures transformed small feathered theropods into the ancestors of the birds we see today, showing how even small changes can lead to incredible evolutionary innovations. What unique skeletal and muscular adaptations allowed sauropods to support their enormous size without collapsing under their own weight? The sheer size of sauropods, the largest land animals ever to walk the Earth, presents one of the most fascinating puzzles in paleontology. Species like Argentinosaurus, Brachiosaurus, and Diplodocus could weigh as much as 70 to 100 tons and reach lengths of over 30 meters. The question of how these colossal creatures managed to support their massive bodies without collapsing under their own weight has intrigued scientists for decades. Recent research into their skeletal and muscular structures has provided insights into the remarkable adaptations that allowed them to thrive as Earth's true giants. One of the most crucial adaptations of sauropods was their pillar-like legs. Unlike modern elephants, which also rely on sturdy, column-like limbs to support their weight, sauropods had a unique limb structure that distributed their body mass efficiently. Their legs were positioned directly under their bodies, forming a strong, stable base. This is different from reptiles like crocodiles, whose legs splay out to the side. This upright stance, similar to that of modern mammals, allowed sauropods to hold up their massive weight with minimal muscular effort. The bones in their legs were also unusually thick and robust, helping to bear the immense pressure of their bodies without buckling. Another important adaptation was their vertebrae, which were hollowed out by a system of air sacs. These air sacs, known as pneumaticity, significantly reduced the overall weight of the sauropod skeleton. By replacing solid bone with air-filled spaces, sauropods were able to achieve their enormous size without being weighed down by excessively heavy bones. This adaptation is still seen today in birds, which have hollow bones to make flight possible. While sauropods didn't fly, this trait allowed them to grow larger while still maintaining mobility. Their long necks, some of which extended over 10 meters, were also designed to minimize weight and maximize efficiency. Sauropod necks were supported by a network of ligaments and muscles that acted like suspension bridges, distributing the weight evenly and allowing the dinosaurs to raise and lower their necks with little energy expenditure. Their neck vertebrae were reinforced with ridges and air sacs, making them both strong and light. This structure enabled sauropods to reach vegetation high in the trees without moving their massive bodies much, which would have required considerable energy. By staying relatively stationary and using their long necks to feed, they could conserve energy while taking in the massive amounts of food required to sustain their enormous size. In addition to their skeletal structure, sauropods likely had massive muscles, particularly in their legs and necks, that helped them move and feed. These muscles were likely positioned efficiently along their bodies, allowing them to balance their size while remaining mobile. Their wide, barrel-shaped bodies also housed large digestive systems capable of processing huge quantities of plant material. By evolving such specialized skeletal and muscular adaptations, sauropods were able to reach sizes unparalleled by any other land animal, past or present. Could the immense size of sauropods have been an evolutionary advantage, or might it have made them more vulnerable to extinction events? The immense size of sauropods certainly provided them with numerous advantages, but it may have also contributed to their vulnerability during periods of environmental change or extinction events. On one hand, being the largest land animals of all time offered sauropods some clear evolutionary benefits. Their size made them less vulnerable to predation. Few, if any, carnivorous dinosaurs were large enough to take down a fully grown brachiosaurus or apatosaurus. Their massive bodies also allowed them to reach food sources that were unavailable to smaller herbivores. With their long necks, sauropods could feed on tall trees, enabling them to exploit an ecological niche with minimal competition. Their sheer bulk also helped them maintain body heat, acting like a natural thermoregulatory system. Large animals tend to lose heat more slowly than smaller ones, which means sauropods could likely regulate their body temperature more efficiently. This ability may have allowed them to thrive in a variety of climates and environments, ranging from semi-arid regions to dense forests. Their size also allowed them to store fat and other energy reserves, helping them survive periods of food scarcity better than smaller animals. However, the same traits that made sauropods so successful could have also made them more vulnerable during times of drastic environmental change. One significant disadvantage of their size was the enormous amount of food required to sustain their bodies. Sauropods likely consumed hundreds of kilograms of vegetation daily, and in times of drought or habitat destruction, they may have struggled to find enough food. Their slow reproductive rates might have also been a problem. Large animals tend to have fewer offspring, and it likely took many years for sauropod juveniles to grow large enough to avoid predators. This slow growth could have made them more vulnerable to environmental pressures or shifts in food availability. During the mass extinction event at the end of the Cretaceous period, these vulnerabilities may have played a role in their downfall. As climate change, volcanic activity, and the impact of the Chicxulub asteroid combined to alter ecosystems dramatically, sauropods may have found it increasingly difficult to find enough food to sustain their enormous size. Furthermore, their large bodies made them less adaptable to sudden changes in their environment. Smaller dinosaurs, like theropods and early mammals, were more capable of surviving in a rapidly changing world due to their lower food demands and faster reproduction rates. In conclusion, while the immense size of sauropods undoubtedly offered them significant advantages in terms of protection, feeding, and thermoregulation, it also made them more vulnerable to extinction when faced with rapid environmental changes. Their success as the largest land animals in history came with trade-offs that may have ultimately contributed to their downfall when the Earth's ecosystems shifted dramatically at the end of the Mesozoic era. How do fossilized trackways provide clues about whether certain dinosaur species, like hadrosaurs, lived in large herds or traveled solo? Fossilized trackways, or footprints preserved in sediment, have become a critical tool in understanding the social behavior of dinosaurs, particularly in determining whether some species lived in herds or led solitary lives. Hadrosaurs, commonly known as duck-billed dinosaurs, are among the most well-documented species when it comes to herd behavior, thanks to the discovery of numerous fossilized trackways that suggest group movement. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence comes from sites where multiple sets of footprints have been found, all traveling in the same direction, often in parallel. These tracks provide a snapshot of dinosaurs moving together, likely as a coordinated group. In some cases, the footprints include a mix of adult and juvenile hadrosaurs, which suggests that these herds consisted of family groups and possibly included young animals traveling with their parents for protection. The fact that smaller juvenile tracks often appear within the larger ones implies that the young were staying close to the adults, much like modern herding animals do. This pattern of group movement supports the idea that hadrosaurs lived in herds, likely for defense against predators, much like today's elephants, bison, or wildebeests. In addition to trackways, the distribution of fossilized bone beds also supports herd behavior. Large concentrations of hadrosaur bones found in single locations suggest that these animals died together, possibly due to a sudden environmental disaster such as a flood or volcanic eruption. These mass death sites are consistent with the theory that hadrosaurs traveled in herds and shared communal grazing areas. Living in groups would have provided them with increased protection, especially since hadrosaurs were herbivores and thus potential prey for large carnivores like T-Rex. By traveling in herds, they could rely on safety in numbers, which would deter predators from attacking them. Trackways of other species, such as sauropods, show similar evidence of herd-like behavior. For instance, footprints of Apatosaurus and Diplodocus are often found in patterns that suggest group movement, with larger adults flanked by smaller individuals. This points to a likely herd structure, where adults protected the more vulnerable young in the center of the group. This social structure would have been crucial for survival, as the young dinosaurs were easy targets for predators until they grew large enough to defend themselves. Could the hunting strategies of predators like Allosaurus have involved complex pack behavior, and what evidence supports or contradicts this theory? The idea of pack hunting in dinosaurs, especially carnivores like Allosaurus, has sparked much debate. Modern apex predators, such as wolves and lions, often hunt in packs to bring down larger prey, and paleontologists have long wondered if similar behavior existed in some of the more formidable theropod dinosaurs. While definitive evidence for complex pack hunting is still lacking, certain fossil finds, along with comparisons to modern animals, offer intriguing possibilities. One of the most famous pieces of evidence suggesting pack hunting behavior in Allosaurus comes from the Cleveland Lloyd Dinosaur Quarry in Utah, where the remains of over 70 individuals, many of them Allosaurus, have been discovered in a single area. This site has led some paleontologists to hypothesize that these dinosaurs may have hunted in groups. The high concentration of Allosaurus fossils in one location could indicate that they worked together to take down large prey, such as sauropods. However, an alternative explanation is that this site represents a natural trap, like a watering hole, where many individuals were drawn in over time and died. Without conclusive evidence of cooperative behavior, this interpretation remains speculative. Other fossil evidence that supports potential group behavior includes bite marks found on prey bones that appear to have been made by multiple individuals feeding at the same time. While this could suggest pack hunting, it might also indicate opportunistic scavenging, where several Allosaurus came together to feast on an already dead carcass. Opportunistic feeding behavior is common in many modern predators, such as lions, which will often gather to eat a large kill made by one or two individuals. Therefore, the presence of multiple Allosaurus around a single carcass could be indicative of social feeding rather than coordinated hunting. On the other hand, the anatomy of Allosaurus suggests that it may not have been a highly specialized pack hunter. Unlike wolves or lions, Allosaurus had relatively weak jaws compared to its body size, meaning it may have relied more on ambush tactics or scavenging rather than coordinated attacks on large prey. Some paleontologists argue that the social complexity required for pack hunting, such as communication and role specialization, might have been beyond the cognitive abilities of most theropods, including Allosaurus. Modern-day reptiles, which are often used as behavioral models for dinosaurs, typically exhibit solitary hunting behavior, relying on stealth and strength rather than cooperation. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, the possibility of pack hunting among dinosaurs like Allosaurus cannot be ruled out entirely. However, the current consensus leans toward more opportunistic or loosely social behavior, where individuals might gather around a kill site but not necessarily work together to bring down large prey. Until further fossil evidence, such as more trackways or kill sites that show clear signs of coordinated action, comes to light, the idea of Allosaurus as a pack hunter remains an intriguing but unproven hypothesis. Could the hunting strategies of predators like Allosaurus have involved complex pack behavior, and what evidence supports or contradicts this theory? The idea of pack hunting in dinosaurs, especially carnivores like Allosaurus, has sparked much debate. Modern apex predators, such as wolves and lions, often hunt in packs to bring down larger prey, and paleontologists have long wondered if similar behavior existed in some of the more formidable theropod dinosaurs. While definitive evidence for complex pack hunting is still lacking, certain fossil finds, along with comparisons to modern animals, offer intriguing possibilities. One of the most famous pieces of evidence suggesting pack hunting behavior in Allosaurus comes from the Cleveland Lloyd Dinosaur Quarry in Utah, where the remains of over 70 individuals, many of them Allosaurus, have been discovered in a single area. This site has led some paleontologists to hypothesize that these dinosaurs may have hunted in groups. The high concentration of Allosaurus fossils in one location could indicate that they worked together to take down large prey, such as sauropods. However, an alternative explanation is that this site represents a natural trap, like a watering hole, where many individuals were drawn in over time and died. Without conclusive evidence of cooperative behavior, this interpretation remains speculative. Other fossil evidence that supports potential group behavior includes bite marks found on prey bones that appear to have been made by multiple individuals feeding at the same time. While this could suggest pack hunting, it might also indicate opportunistic scavenging, where several Allosaurus came together to feast on an already dead carcass. Opportunistic feeding behavior is common in many modern predators, such as lions, which will often gather to eat a large kill made by one or two individuals. Therefore, the presence of multiple Allosaurus around a single carcass could be indicative of social feeding rather than coordinated hunting. On the other hand, the anatomy of Allosaurus suggests that it may not have been a highly specialized pack hunter. Unlike wolves or lions, Allosaurus had relatively weak jaws compared to its body size, meaning it may have relied more on ambush tactics or scavenging rather than coordinated attacks on large prey. Some paleontologists argue that the social complexity required for pack hunting, such as communication and role specialization, might have been beyond the cognitive abilities of most theropods, including Allosaurus. Modern-day reptiles, which are often used as behavioral models for dinosaurs, typically exhibit solitary hunting behavior, relying on stealth and strength rather than cooperation. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, the possibility of pack hunting among dinosaurs like Allosaurus cannot be ruled out entirely. However, the current consensus leans toward more opportunistic or loosely social behavior, where individuals might gather around a kill site but not necessarily work together to bring down large prey. Until further fossil evidence, such as more trackways or kill sites that show clear signs of coordinated action, comes to light, the idea of Allosaurus as a pack hunter remains an intriguing but unproven hypothesis. How did the armor and defensive features of dinosaurs like Ankylosaurus evolve in response to specific threats from predators? The evolution of armor in dinosaurs like Ankylosaurus represents one of the most fascinating examples of defensive adaptation in the prehistoric world. Ankylosaurs, with their heavily armored bodies and formidable tail clubs, were well equipped to fend off predators like Tyrannosaurus rex and other large theropods that roamed the late Cretaceous period. The development of these defensive features was likely a direct evolutionary response to the increasing size and lethality of carnivorous dinosaurs. One of the key adaptations that defined Ankylosaurus was its extensive body armor made up of osteoderms, bony plates embedded in the skin. These osteoderms varied in size and shape, forming a protective shell that covered much of the dinosaur's back, flanks, and even its skull. The armor served as a literal shield, making it difficult for predators to land a fatal blow. Fossil evidence shows that these bony plates were extremely dense and durable, capable of withstanding the crushing bites of predators like T-Rex. Over millions of years, natural selection favored individuals with thicker, stronger armor, allowing them to survive longer and reproduce, passing on these defensive traits to their offspring. In addition to the armor, Ankylosaurus developed one of the most iconic defensive weapons in the dinosaur world, the tail club. This club, made of fused bone at the end of the tail, could be swung with incredible force, potentially breaking the bones of any predator foolish enough to come too close. Fossil studies have shown that the tail of Ankylosaurus was heavily muscled, allowing it to generate enough power to use the club as a devastating weapon. In a direct confrontation, the tail club could have acted as both a deterrent and an offensive tool, giving Ankylosaurus the ability to fight back against predators that attempted to breach its armored defenses. The positioning of Ankylosaurus's armor also suggests an evolutionary adaptation to its likely predators. The heaviest armor was concentrated on the back and sides, areas most vulnerable to attacks from above or the sides. This implies that Ankylosaurus was often targeted by large bipedal predators that would strike from these angles. Its relatively low-slung, stocky body, combined with this armor placement, suggests that Ankylosaurus may have employed a defensive strategy similar to modern-day armadillos, curling up or positioning itself to protect its vulnerable underbelly. The evolution of Ankylosaurus's armor was not just about physical protection, but also about visual intimidation. The sight of a fully armored Ankylosaurus, with its spiked tail and bony plates, would have been enough to give any predator pause. Much like how a porcupine or a hedgehog uses its spines as a warning to would-be attackers, Ankylosaurus's appearance likely served as a deterrent, signaling to predators that an attack would not be easy or worth the risk of injury. Could Stegosaurus's unique tail spikes have been more of a display feature than a weapon? And what does this reveal about their behavior? The Stegosaurus is known for its distinctive row of bony plates along its back and its formidable tail spikes, often referred to as the thagomizer. While it's tempting to view the thagomizer as a purely defensive weapon, some paleontologists have suggested that it may have also served a secondary function: display. The dual-purpose nature of this feature opens up interesting questions about the behavior and social dynamics of Stegosaurus and other herbivores of the Jurassic period. First and foremost, there is ample evidence that the thagomizer could be used as a powerful weapon. Fossilized bones of predators like Allosaurus have been found with puncture wounds that match the spacing of Stegosaurus tail spikes, indicating that these spikes were indeed used in combat. The tail of Stegosaurus was highly flexible, and the spikes were positioned in such a way that they could be swung with great force, potentially causing lethal damage to any predator that ventured too close. This suggests that, like Ankylosaurus, Stegosaurus evolved its tail spikes as a defense mechanism to deter attacks from large theropods. However, the idea that the thagomizer may have also served as a display feature is supported by the fact that the spikes were often large, sharp, and prominently positioned. In many modern animals, horns, antlers, and other similar structures serve a dual purpose. They are used for defense, but they also play a key role in visual communication. Large, sharp spikes may have been a way for Stegosaurus to signal to potential predators, rivals, or even mates that it was not to be trifled with. In this sense, the thagomizer could have been as much about appearance as function, much like how a peacock's tail feathers are more about display than flight. Additionally, Stegosaurus's distinctive backplates, which were not particularly well suited for defense, may provide further clues about the role of display in its behavior. These large plates, which were likely covered in skin, may have been used to regulate the animal's temperature or to signal social status or fitness to other members of its species. Some paleontologists believe that the plates could have flushed with blood, allowing Stegosaurus to change color and communicate with potential mates or competitors. This idea supports the notion that Stegosaurus relied on both visual signals and physical weapons to navigate its environment. The notion that the Thagomizer could have had a display function also ties into broader theories about dinosaur behavior. If Stegosaurus used its tail spikes to communicate with other dinosaurs, it suggests a level of social complexity that may have extended to other aspects of its life, such as mating rituals or territorial disputes. This potential for social signaling adds a new dimension to our understanding of Stegosaurus as more than just a lumbering herbivore, but as a dynamic species with intricate behaviors shaped by both survival and social interaction. In conclusion, while Stegosaurus's tail spikes were certainly capable of causing significant damage in a defensive context, the possibility that they also served a display function offers fascinating insight into the behavior of this iconic dinosaur. The dual-purpose nature of the Thagomizer reveals that, like many modern animals, Stegosaurus may have relied on both physical strength and visual communication to thrive in its Jurassic ecosystem. How might higher oxygen levels and warmer climates during the Mesozoic era have contributed to the massive size of dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures? One of the key factors contributing to the enormous size of dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures was the unique environmental conditions of the Mesozoic era, which spanned from about 250 to 66 million years ago. During much of this period, Earth's atmosphere and climate were vastly different from what we experience today. Several scientific theories suggest that higher oxygen levels and warmer global temperatures played significant roles in enabling creatures like the sauropods and theropods to grow to such incredible sizes. Research into Earth's prehistoric atmosphere indicates that oxygen levels were likely higher during parts of the Mesozoic era, particularly during the Jurassic and early Cretaceous periods. Some estimates suggest that oxygen levels may have been as high as 30 to 35%, compared to about 21% today. This abundance of oxygen would have supported larger body sizes by enabling more efficient respiratory and metabolic functions. Dinosaurs, particularly the larger species, had highly efficient respiratory systems that were similar to modern birds, which are descendants of theropods. These air sac systems would have allowed them to take in more oxygen, fueling their massive bodies and supporting their growth. In addition to higher oxygen levels, the warmer climate of the Mesozoic era would have been another factor promoting gigantism. Average global temperatures were much higher than they are today, and polar ice caps were virtually non-existent. This warm, stable climate allowed vegetation to thrive year-round, creating an abundance of food for herbivorous dinosaurs. The plentiful food supply, combined with warm temperatures that likely reduced metabolic energy expenditure, provided the ideal conditions for large herbivores like Brachiosaurus and Diplodocus to grow to their immense sizes. These herbivores, in turn, supported the growth of large predators like Tyrannosaurus rex, which could only exist in ecosystems with enough prey to sustain their energy needs. Warmer climates also reduced the need for large dinosaurs to develop mechanisms for conserving body heat. Large animals today, like elephants, have slow metabolisms, partly because they need to avoid overheating. In the Mesozoic, the warm climate may have encouraged gigantism by allowing dinosaurs to expand without the energy constraints that come with maintaining body heat in cooler environments. The lack of extreme seasonal fluctuations and consistent food supplies in such climates would have further promoted the growth of larger species. Thus, the combination of high oxygen levels, warm climates, and abundant vegetation helped create the perfect conditions for dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures to achieve unprecedented sizes, making them some of the largest land animals to ever exist. What evolutionary advantages did large size offer to herbivorous dinosaurs like Brachiosaurus, and how might it have affected their feeding and energy needs? The gigantic size of herbivorous dinosaurs, particularly the sauropods like Brachiosaurus and Apatosaurus, provided them with several evolutionary advantages that helped ensure their survival in a world full of predators and competition for resources. Size, in many ways, was a defense mechanism, an adaptation for feeding, and a means of maintaining dominance in their ecosystems. One of the most obvious advantages of large size was protection from predators. While young dinosaurs were certainly vulnerable, fully grown sauropods were virtually immune to predation due to their sheer size. Few predators, even large theropods like Allosaurus or Tyrannosaurus rex, would have been able to take down a healthy adult Brachiosaurus. In this way, gigantism acted as a natural deterrent. Predators were more likely to target smaller, weaker individuals or different species altogether, meaning that the largest herbivores could roam relatively undisturbed once they reached maturity. Another key advantage of such massive size was the ability to access food sources that other dinosaurs could not reach. The long necks of sauropods like Brachiosaurus allowed them to browse the treetops for leaves, branches, and other vegetation that shorter dinosaurs simply couldn't access. This unique feeding strategy allowed them to avoid direct competition with other herbivores that grazed on low-lying plants. By specializing in tall vegetation, sauropods could exploit a niche that made them dominant in their environments. However, being enormous came with substantial energy demands. Brachiosaurus and its relatives likely consumed hundreds of kilograms of plant matter each day to sustain their massive bodies. Their long necks allowed them to feed efficiently by covering large areas of foliage without needing to move their massive bodies as frequently. This was an essential adaptation, as moving a creature weighing up to 50 tons required significant energy. By staying relatively stationary and using their necks to graze, sauropods could conserve energy while meeting their immense food requirements. Additionally, their large size may have provided a thermal advantage. Large animals retain heat more effectively than smaller ones due to their surface area to volume ratio, which would have allowed sauropods to maintain stable body temperatures in different climates. This natural heat regulation would have been especially beneficial in cooler regions or during nighttime, giving them an advantage over smaller, more thermally sensitive species. Gigantism also had reproductive implications. Large herbivores like Brachiosaurus likely had fewer natural predators targeting adults, meaning they could invest more time and energy in raising fewer offspring, a common strategy among large animals. While smaller herbivores may have relied on producing large numbers of offspring to ensure species survival, sauropods could afford to invest in fewer, more robust young that had better chances of reaching adulthood. In summary, the immense size of herbivorous dinosaurs offered multiple evolutionary benefits, from predator deterrence to specialized feeding strategies. However, this size also came with challenges, particularly in terms of meeting their energy needs, which they addressed through highly efficient feeding behaviors and adaptations. These advantages made sauropods some of the most successful and long-lasting dinosaurs in Earth's history. What challenges do scientists face in extracting viable DNA from ancient fossils, and how realistic is the idea of cloning a dinosaur in the near future? The idea of cloning dinosaurs, popularized by movies like Jurassic Park, has long captured the public imagination. However, the reality of extracting viable dinosaur DNA from fossils is far more complex and challenging than the film's plot suggests. Despite incredible advancements in genetics, there are significant obstacles to making this idea a reality. The biggest challenge in cloning a dinosaur is the age of the DNA. DNA is a highly unstable molecule and begins to degrade rapidly after an organism dies. Under the best conditions, cold, dry, and oxygen-free, DNA can last tens of thousands of years, but dinosaurs went extinct over 66 million years ago. Most scientists agree that it's virtually impossible for DNA to remain intact for that long, even in the most ideal conditions. Fossils themselves are essentially rock, formed when organic material is replaced by minerals over millions of years, meaning any original DNA would have long since disintegrated. Even the most well-preserved dinosaur fossils are unlikely to contain any useful genetic material. In recent years, however, there have been some promising discoveries of soft tissues, such as blood vessels, collagen, and cells, in well-preserved dinosaur fossils. Paleontologist Mary Schweitzer's discovery of soft tissues in a T-Rex femur was groundbreaking, as it challenged long-held assumptions about how fossils form. While these tissues do not contain viable DNA, they hint at the possibility of finding ancient proteins or other biomolecules that could provide insights into dinosaur biology. However, proteins are far less useful than DNA for cloning, as they do not carry genetic instructions in the same way DNA does. Another significant hurdle is the fact that even if we were able to recover fragments of dinosaur DNA, it would be incomplete and highly fragmented. DNA degrades into smaller and smaller fragments over time, and the older the sample, the more broken up it becomes. Modern genetic techniques, such as CRISPR gene editing, could potentially allow scientists to piece together these fragments, but reconstructing a full dinosaur genome from millions of fragmented pieces is an incredibly daunting task. The human genome, for example, took over a decade to sequence using state-of-the-art technology, and that was with fully intact modern DNA. Moreover, even if we could sequence an entire dinosaur genome, we would still face the challenge of finding a suitable egg or surrogate species to carry and hatch a cloned dinosaur. Dinosaurs are unlike any living creature today, although birds are their closest relatives. Some scientists have proposed the idea of using a bird, such as a chicken, as a surrogate to incubate a genetically engineered dinosaur egg. However, this approach would require extensive genetic modification of the bird's reproductive system, and it's unclear whether this would even be possible, let alone whether the resulting offspring would resemble a true dinosaur. While the scientific hurdles are enormous, research into de-extinction, the process of bringing extinct species back to life, is ongoing. Efforts to resurrect species like the woolly mammoth, which went extinct only a few thousand years ago, have made significant progress because viable DNA from these animals still exists in frozen conditions. However, even in these cases, cloning a mammoth involves splicing mammoth DNA into the genome of a closely related species, such as an elephant, to create a hybrid. For dinosaurs, there is no closely related species that could serve as a genetic template. In short, while the idea of cloning a dinosaur is appealing and exciting, it remains firmly in the realm of science fiction for now. The challenges of finding viable DNA, reconstructing a complete genome, and developing a surrogate species are immense. The science simply isn't there yet, and may never be. Could modern-day birds, as descendants of dinosaurs, be genetically modified to resemble their prehistoric ancestors? And what ethical implications does this raise? Although cloning a real dinosaur may not be feasible, some scientists believe we could get closer to resurrecting aspects of dinosaurs by genetically modifying their modern-day descendants. Birds. Birds are the direct descendants of theropod dinosaurs, the same group that includes Velociraptor and T-Rex. As a result, birds carry vestiges of their dinosaur ancestry in their DNA, and some scientists speculate that we could reverse engineer certain dinosaur traits through genetic modification. The concept of a chickenosaurus, a bird genetically modified to express dinosaur-like traits, has been explored in some laboratories. Researchers have already made progress in deactivating certain genes in chickens to express more primitive traits, such as teeth or elongated tails, which were present in their dinosaur ancestors. By understanding the genetic switches that activate or suppress these ancient traits, scientists hope to recreate some physical characteristics of dinosaurs in modern birds. For instance, geneticists have identified certain genes in chickens that, when deactivated, cause the bird's beak to develop more like the snouts of prehistoric theropods. Similarly, experiments have successfully altered chicken embryos to grow dinosaur-like teeth, which modern birds have long lost. These experiments offer tantalizing glimpses into how birds could be modified to resemble their prehistoric ancestors, at least superficially. However, this raises significant ethical questions. Is it responsible or even ethical to attempt to recreate an extinct species or a version of one by modifying a modern animal? Creating a chickenosaurus could involve painful genetic mutations, and it's unclear whether the resulting animal would live a healthy life or suffer from unforeseen complications. Moreover, by manipulating these animals to look more like dinosaurs, we may be prioritizing scientific curiosity or novelty over the well-being of the creatures involved. There are also broader concerns about the ecological impact of resurrecting ancient traits. Even if we could successfully recreate a dinosaur-like animal, where would it fit in today's ecosystems? Modern ecosystems are finely balanced, and introducing a genetically modified animal with the traits of a long-extinct species could have unpredictable and potentially harmful effects. The ethical implications of creating such an animal go beyond scientific interest. They touch on broader concerns about animal welfare, the potential commercialization of extinct species, and the unforeseen consequences of playing with ancient genetics. While we are not on the verge of creating true dinosaurs, genetic modification of birds could, in theory, bring us closer to experiencing traits from the ancient world. However, as with many scientific advancements, the question isn't just whether we can do it, it's whether we should. For now, the ethical and biological challenges of resurrecting even a glimpse of the past mean that this remains an area of debate rather than reality. How could massive volcanic eruptions like those from the Deccan Traps have contributed to the environmental collapse that led to the dinosaurs' extinction? While the asteroid impact at Chicxulub is often cited as the primary cause of the dinosaurs' extinction 66 million years ago, recent research suggests that massive volcanic activity, particularly from the Deccan Traps in what is now India, may have played a significant role in the environmental collapse that wiped out the dinosaurs. The Deccan Traps represent one of the largest volcanic regions on Earth, consisting of layers of lava flows that at their peak covered over 500,000 square kilometers. These eruptions, which lasted for hundreds of thousands of years, released immense amounts of greenhouse gases and aerosols into the atmosphere, triggering a series of environmental catastrophes. One of the key ways in which the Deccan Traps contributed to the dinosaurs' extinction was through the release of sulfur dioxide, SO2, and carbon dioxide, CO2. The vast quantities of SO2 would have caused acid rain, devastating plant life across the globe and disrupting the food chain. Acid rain not only affected terrestrial ecosystems, killing off vegetation, but also impacted marine environments, acidifying the oceans and endangering marine life. The loss of plants would have severely affected herbivorous dinosaurs, and the ripple effect would have extended to carnivorous species that depended on these herbivores for food. CO2, on the other hand, would have contributed to long-term global warming. The immense amounts of carbon released into the atmosphere during the Deccan eruptions likely caused temperatures to rise dramatically. This global warming would have created an unstable climate, leading to erratic weather patterns, droughts, and more intense storms. Many ecosystems, particularly those in tropical and subtropical regions where dinosaurs thrived, would have been unable to cope with the rapid changes in temperature and climate. These prolonged changes, combined with acid rain and habitat loss, could have caused significant declines in dinosaur populations well before the asteroid impact. Additionally, the release of aerosols, tiny particles that reflect sunlight, would have caused temporary global cooling, despite the long-term warming effects of CO2. These aerosols, released during the most intense volcanic eruptions, would have blocked out sunlight for months or even years, leading to a volcanic winter effect. This dramatic drop in temperatures would have halted photosynthesis, further damaging ecosystems. Much like the nuclear winter scenario following the asteroid impact, this volcanic winter would have plunged the planet into a state of darkness, killing off plants, destabilizing food chains, and creating famine for both herbivores and carnivores. Combined with the already harsh conditions caused by acid rain and global warming, this cooling would have made survival for the dinosaurs increasingly difficult. The timeline of the Deccan Traps eruptions is also critical in understanding their role in the mass extinction. Evidence suggests that the most intense phase of volcanic activity occurred in the last million years of the Cretaceous period, overlapping with the Chicxulub asteroid impact. This raises the possibility that the volcanic eruptions had already severely weakened global ecosystems by the time the asteroid hit, making the dinosaurs more vulnerable to extinction. The synergistic effect of volcanic activity and the asteroid impact may have created a 1-2 punch, with the volcanic gases and climate disruptions setting the stage for the asteroid to deliver the final blow. In conclusion, while the asteroid impact at Chicxulub was certainly catastrophic, the Deccan Traps eruptions likely played a significant role in the environmental collapse that led to the extinction of the dinosaurs. The combination of acid rain, global warming, and volcanic winter caused by these massive eruptions destabilized ecosystems and left many species unable to adapt. The idea that multiple factors contributed to the dinosaurs' demise paints a more complex picture of the mass extinction event, one in which volcanism and asteroid impact worked together to reshape life on Earth. Is it possible that the cooling effect of volcanic ash clouds combined with asteroid impacts to create a perfect storm for the dinosaurs' demise? The notion that the cooling effects of volcanic ash clouds combined with the asteroid impact to create a perfect storm for the dinosaurs' extinction is supported by growing evidence that these two catastrophic events may have occurred in close succession, with each exacerbating the effects of the other. The asteroid impact at Chicxulub would have triggered a dramatic and immediate cooling event, often referred to as impact winter. When the asteroid struck the Earth, it threw vast amounts of dust, soot, and aerosols into the atmosphere, blocking sunlight and drastically lowering global temperatures. This sudden and severe cooling would have caused a rapid collapse of ecosystems as plants died off without sunlight and herbivores, in turn, starved, leading to a ripple effect throughout the food chain. At the same time, the Deccan Traps volcanic eruptions, which were already causing environmental stress, would have compounded this effect. Volcanic ash clouds from the Deccan Traps, much like those from the asteroid impact, would have reflected sunlight back into space, further lowering temperatures. The combination of volcanic winter and impact winter could have amplified the cooling effect, creating an even more inhospitable environment for life. This double-layered cooling event would have plunged the Earth into a prolonged period of darkness and cold, effectively halting photosynthesis and wiping out plant life across the planet. This scenario, in which the combined effects of the volcanic eruptions and asteroid impact created a perfect storm of cooling and climate disruption, provides a compelling explanation for why the mass extinction was so sudden and widespread. Many species that might have survived either event on its own could have been pushed to extinction by the compounded stress of both. The sudden drop in temperatures, combined with the longer-term effects of volcanic gases like CO2 and SO2, would have made it nearly impossible for large, warm-blooded animals like the dinosaurs to survive. Additionally, the geological evidence supports the idea that these two events overlapped. Radiometric dating of the Deccan Traps shows that the most intense phase of volcanic activity occurred around the same time as the asteroid impact. While the asteroid is often credited with causing the dinosaurs' extinction, it's possible that the environmental stress created by the Deccan Traps eruptions had already pushed many species to the brink. The asteroid may have simply been the final blow in a series of catastrophic events that began with volcanic activity. There is also the possibility that the volcanic activity may have been triggered or intensified by the asteroid impact itself. Some scientists have proposed that the force of the asteroid's collision could have set off a chain reaction of tectonic activity, leading to even more intense volcanic eruptions. If this hypothesis is correct, then the asteroid and volcanic activity were not separate events, but were instead linked, with the asteroid accelerating the volcanic activity that had already begun. Ultimately, the combined effects of volcanic ash clouds and the asteroid impact likely created a perfect storm of environmental collapse. The cooling from ash and dust, combined with global warming from volcanic gases, led to a chaotic and rapidly changing climate that few species could withstand. Dinosaurs, which had dominated the Earth for over 150 million years, were suddenly and irreversibly wiped out, leaving room for the rise of mammals and eventually humans. The interplay between volcanism and the asteroid impact illustrates the complexity of mass extinctions and how multiple factors can converge to cause profound shifts in Earth's history. What do fossilized nests and eggs tell us about the level of parental care in dinosaurs, And how might different species have raised their young? The discovery of fossilized nests and eggs has given paleontologists valuable insights into the parenting habits of dinosaurs, suggesting that some species may have been far more nurturing than initially thought. These fossils, preserved for millions of years, offer a rare glimpse into how dinosaurs cared for their offspring, and the evidence suggests a range of behaviors from leaving young to fend for themselves to providing extensive parental care. One of the most famous examples of potential parental care comes from the Maiasaura, a large herbivorous dinosaur whose name literally means good mother lizard. Fossils of Maiasaura nests, discovered in Montana, revealed evidence that these dinosaurs tended to their young long after hatching. The nests were found with clusters of eggs, some broken open, and the remains of baby Maiasaura that appeared to be too underdeveloped to walk. This suggests that these dinosaurs stayed in the nest dependent on their parents for food and protection until they were strong enough to venture out. The presence of older juvenile bones in the same nesting areas further supports the idea that Maiasaura parents might have remained with their offspring for extended periods, similar to modern birds or some mammals. Fossilized eggs of other species, such as Oviraptor, also point toward nurturing behavior. Despite its name, which means egg thief, originally given because it was thought to steal eggs from other dinosaurs, evidence now suggests that Oviraptor might have been protecting its own eggs. Several fossilized Oviraptor skeletons have been discovered in a brooding position, sitting directly on top of nests in a manner similar to modern birds. This suggests that they incubated their eggs, possibly using body heat to ensure that the embryos developed properly. Such behavior indicates a high level of parental involvement, where Oviraptor parents may have actively guarded and cared for their nests. The shape, size, and organization of nests also reveal how different dinosaur species approached parenting. Some, like Troodon, laid their eggs in carefully organized rows or clusters, which could imply a more deliberate approach to ensuring all the eggs were properly cared for. Others, such as some of the large sauropods, likely laid their eggs in simple holes or shallow pits and may have abandoned them shortly after laying. Evidence from sauropod nesting sites suggests that these dinosaurs might not have provided much care, instead relying on sheer numbers of offspring to ensure that some would survive to adulthood. The large number of eggs found in some sauropod nesting grounds indicates a quantity over quality strategy, where many eggs were laid with little direct involvement from parents. Not all dinosaurs exhibited the same level of parental care. Carnivorous dinosaurs, such as Tyrannosaurus rex, are thought to have provided care for their young, though the evidence is less clear. Fossilized remains of juvenile T-Rex suggest that young carnivores may have stayed near their parents for protection and learning how to hunt, though it is still debated how much direct care they received compared to herbivorous dinosaurs. In conclusion, fossilized nests and eggs provide compelling evidence that some dinosaurs exhibited complex parental behaviors, ranging from incubation and protection to prolonged care of hatchlings. These behaviors bear striking similarities to those of modern birds and reptiles, reinforcing the evolutionary connection between dinosaurs and their avian descendants. However, the extent of parental care likely varied significantly across species, reflecting the diverse life strategies that dinosaurs developed over millions of years. Could the positioning of dinosaur eggs in nests reveal whether certain species practiced communal nesting or solitary brooding? The arrangement and positioning of eggs in fossilized nests provides significant clues about whether certain dinosaurs engaged in communal nesting or solitary brooding. By examining how eggs were laid and organized, paleontologists can infer important aspects of dinosaur social behavior, including whether multiple individuals shared nests or if parents kept to themselves during reproduction. One of the clearest examples of potential communal nesting comes from the hadrosaur species. Fossilized nests from these duck-billed dinosaurs have been found in large concentrations, sometimes containing dozens of nests in close proximity to one another. The dense clustering of nests suggests that these dinosaurs might have nested in colonies, similar to modern birds like penguins or seabirds, which gather in large groups for safety in numbers. communal nesting provides several advantages, especially for herbivorous species like hadrosaurs, which would have been vulnerable to predation while raising their young. By nesting together, these dinosaurs could have collectively guarded their eggs and hatchlings, reducing the risk of attacks by predators. The large number of juveniles found in some nesting sites also suggests that parents may have shared responsibilities or at least relied on group safety for their young's survival. In contrast, some theropod species, such as Troodon, seem to have practiced more solitary brooding. Fossilized Troodon nests are typically found isolated, with eggs carefully arranged in symmetrical patterns. This suggests that Troodon parents took great care in laying and organizing their eggs, possibly indicating a more hands-on approach to parenting, where individuals tended their nests without the protection of a group. The structured arrangement of the eggs suggests that Troodon may have monitored the development of their young closely, perhaps adjusting the positioning to optimize temperature control or protection from environmental threats. The number of eggs laid per nest can also offer clues about whether communal or solitary nesting was practiced. Sauropods, for example, laid hundreds of eggs in large nesting grounds, but these nests were often spread out, suggesting little direct care. The spread of sauropod eggs over a wide area, combined with the lack of any clear arrangement, indicates a more solitary, unprotected nesting strategy. These dinosaurs likely relied on the sheer number of offspring to ensure that some would survive, rather than investing significant parental effort in any one clutch. Another indicator of nesting behavior is the degree of nest construction. Dinosaurs like Oviraptor built carefully structured nests, sometimes lined with organic material or mud, indicating that these dinosaurs were more invested in protecting their eggs. These nests were often found individually, hinting at solitary brooding, where a single parent or pair tended the nest. In contrast, more basic nest structures, like shallow pits found in some sauropod or hadrosaur nesting sites, suggest less care in egg maintenance and a strategy based more on producing large numbers of offspring rather than high-quality parental investment. In conclusion, the arrangement and structure of dinosaur nests offer valuable insights into their social and reproductive behaviors. While some species may have practiced communal nesting, likely as a defense strategy, others appear to have focused on solitary brooding, with careful attention given to the care and positioning of their eggs. This diversity in nesting behaviors reflects the varied evolutionary strategies that dinosaurs employed to ensure the survival of their young in a dangerous world. How did the discovery of the first feathered dinosaurs in the 1990s spark a dinosaur renaissance in paleontology, and what misconceptions did it correct? The discovery of the first feathered dinosaurs in the 1990s, particularly in the Liaoning province of China, triggered a revolution in paleontology often referred to as the Dinosaur Renaissance. This period of rapid advancement in our understanding of dinosaurs fundamentally changed how scientists and the public alike viewed these ancient creatures, correcting long-standing misconceptions and ushering in a new era of research that continues to evolve today. Before these discoveries, dinosaurs were traditionally seen as slow-moving, cold-blooded reptilian creatures, largely based on outdated views from the early 20th century. The image of dinosaurs as sluggish, scaly, prehistoric lizards dominated popular culture and scientific thought for decades. However, the discovery of feathered dinosaurs like Sinosauropteryx and Caudipteryx in the 1990s shattered this image. These fossils, some of which were so well preserved that delicate feather impressions could be seen alongside the bones, revealed that dinosaurs were far more bird-like than previously thought. The presence of feathers on these dinosaurs confirmed a direct evolutionary link between theropod dinosaurs and modern birds, a theory that had been proposed decades earlier but lacked compelling fossil evidence. With the discovery of feathered species, paleontologists could finally confirm that birds were, in fact, the descendants of small feathered theropods. This revelation challenged the long-held view that dinosaurs were exclusively scaly reptiles, and highlighted that many were likely warm-blooded, active creatures capable of complex behaviors. These feathered dinosaurs also corrected misconceptions about dinosaur locomotion and behavior. For example, fossils of feathered dinosaurs showed evidence of more agile and dynamic movement, implying that some dinosaurs were fast, capable hunters rather than the slow, lumbering giants previously depicted. This was particularly true for smaller theropods like Velociraptor, which were now understood to have had feathers, likely for insulation or display and possibly even for gliding in some species. The shift in how dinosaurs were seen led to a broader re-evaluation of their biology, suggesting that many species were far more social, dynamic, and intelligent than once believed. Additionally, these discoveries corrected misconceptions about dinosaur extinction and their supposed failure to adapt. The fact that birds, descendants of theropod dinosaurs, are alive today demonstrates that not all dinosaurs went extinct. Instead, their evolutionary legacy continues in the form of over 10,000 species of birds that inhabit the Earth today. This corrected the notion that dinosaurs were evolutionary failures and reframed them as one of the most successful groups of animals in Earth's history. Overall, the discovery of feathered dinosaurs redefined our understanding of prehistoric life, revealing dinosaurs as dynamic, warm-blooded, and often feathered creatures that laid the foundation for the evolution of birds. It corrected long-standing misconceptions about their biology, behavior, and extinction, and it marked a turning point in paleontology, driving new research and public interest in dinosaurs that continues to this day. In what ways has popular media, such as films and documentaries, influenced public perception of dinosaurs for better or for worse? Popular media, particularly films like Jurassic Park, have had an enormous impact on public perception of dinosaurs, shaping how people imagine and understand these prehistoric creatures. On the positive side, movies, TV shows, and documentaries have sparked widespread interest in dinosaurs, drawing attention to paleontology and inspiring generations of scientists. However, the portrayal of dinosaurs in popular media has also contributed to significant misconceptions about how these animals actually looked and behaved. One of the most positive influences of popular media has been its ability to ignite curiosity and bring the world of dinosaurs to a broad audience. Movies like Jurassic Park have been instrumental in making dinosaurs exciting and accessible, blending real scientific discoveries with thrilling storytelling. As a result, millions of people around the world became fascinated with dinosaurs, fueling public interest in paleontology and driving demand for new research and museum exhibits. This increased awareness has also led to a better understanding of dinosaur diversity, as films and documentaries showcase a wide range of species, from the mighty Tyrannosaurus rex to the massive Brachiosaurus. However, popular media has also perpetuated many inaccuracies and misconceptions. One of the most enduring myths is the portrayal of dinosaurs like Velociraptor as large, scaly, and hyper-intelligent predators. In reality, Velociraptor was much smaller than depicted in films and was likely covered in feathers, making it look more like a large bird than a scaly monster. The fierce, cunning raptors of Jurassic Park have cemented an image of dinosaurs as cold-blooded, terrifying reptiles. But this doesn't align with current scientific understanding, which suggests that many theropods were agile, feathered, and perhaps even social animals. Another major misconception reinforced by popular media is the misrepresentation of dinosaur behaviors. In films, dinosaurs are often shown engaging in exaggerated Hollywood-style actions, such as coordinated pack hunting by velociraptors or T-Rex attacking moving vehicles. While some behaviors like scavenging or hunting were part of dinosaur life, the dramatic way these scenes are presented in movies often stretches the boundaries of scientific accuracy. For example, the idea of pack hunting among theropods, while possible, is still debated and not definitively supported by fossil evidence. These dramatizations, while entertaining, can give the public a skewed understanding of real dinosaur behavior. Another issue is that media representations of dinosaurs often neglect the latest scientific discoveries. Even after the widespread recognition that many dinosaurs had feathers, movies and documentaries continued to show dinosaurs as entirely scaly creatures. This delay in incorporating new knowledge into mainstream portrayals has contributed to a persistent, scaly dinosaur stereotype in popular culture, leaving audiences with an outdated image of these animals. On the other hand, some documentaries like Walking with Dinosaurs have made commendable efforts to depict dinosaurs as accurately as possible based on current research. These documentaries strive to blend entertainment with education, helping to correct public misconceptions and present a more nuanced picture of dinosaur life. By showcasing feathered dinosaurs, complex social behaviors, and the diversity of species, such programs help align public perception with scientific reality. In conclusion, popular media has played a dual role in shaping our understanding of dinosaurs. While films like Jurassic Park have inspired curiosity and excitement, they have also perpetuated inaccuracies that scientists continue to correct. Documentaries have helped bridge this gap, offering a more scientifically grounded portrayal of these fascinating creatures. As new discoveries continue to emerge, there is hope that future media will increasingly reflect the rich and accurate story of dinosaurs, deepening the public's understanding of prehistoric life. Could the ancestors of mammals have competed with dinosaurs for resources during the late Cretaceous period? And how might this have influenced mammalian evolution? Yes, the ancestors of modern mammals did coexist with dinosaurs during the late Cretaceous period, and there is strong evidence that they may have competed for resources. However, these mammals were much smaller and lived in the shadow of the dominant dinosaurs, who ruled the land for millions of years. The interactions between early mammals and dinosaurs played a crucial role in shaping the evolution of mammals, particularly in terms of behavior, diet, and survival strategies. The first mammals appeared around 200 million years ago during the Mesozoic era, but they remained small and relatively inconspicuous throughout the reign of the dinosaurs. Most early mammals, such as multituberculates and morganeucodontids, were likely nocturnal, small-bodied creatures that fed on insects, plants, or small vertebrates. Their small size and nocturnal lifestyle may have evolved as a way to avoid direct competition with dinosaurs, particularly the large theropods and herbivores that dominated the ecosystems during the day. This nocturnal behavior helped mammals carve out an ecological niche that allowed them to coexist with much larger predators. There is also evidence that some mammals were able to exploit different food sources to avoid direct competition with dinosaurs. For example, early mammals are believed to have been more diverse in their diets compared to many of the dinosaurs, which specialized in either plant material or large prey. Fossil evidence suggests that some of these early mammals developed specialized teeth and jaws for feeding on insects, seeds, or even the eggs of dinosaurs. By exploiting these varied food sources, mammals could occupy niches that dinosaurs didn't, allowing them to thrive in the shadows of their much larger contemporaries. Interestingly, some mammals may have even preyed on small dinosaurs or their eggs. Fossilized remains from the Cretaceous period show a mammal called Repenomamus, which was about the size of a modern badger, with the remains of a young dinosaur in its stomach. This discovery suggests that while mammals generally lived in the shadow of dinosaurs, some were able to hunt and consume smaller dinosaur species. These interactions demonstrate the dynamic relationship between mammals and dinosaurs, with some mammals being active participants in the food chain rather than simply passive survivors. The presence of dinosaurs likely exerted evolutionary pressure on mammals, pushing them to develop characteristics that would later help them flourish after the extinction of the dinosaurs. Traits such as a keen sense of smell, endothermy, warm-bloodedness, and reproductive strategies like live birth allowed early mammals to thrive in environments where large reptiles dominated. These traits, particularly the ability to regulate body temperature, may have given mammals a significant advantage once the dinosaurs went extinct, as they were able to adapt to the colder, darker environments that followed the asteroid impact. In summary, while mammals and dinosaurs coexisted during the late Cretaceous period, early mammals survived by occupying ecological niches that dinosaurs didn't, such as nocturnal or omnivorous lifestyles. These evolutionary strategies enabled them to coexist with dinosaurs and laid the groundwork for their eventual success following the mass extinction that ended the reign of the dinosaurs. How did small mammals survive the mass extinction that wiped out the dinosaurs? And what does this tell us about the resilience of certain species? The mass extinction event at the end of the Cretaceous period, around 66 million years ago, was catastrophic, wiping out nearly 3/4 of all species on Earth, including the non-avian dinosaurs. Yet small mammals not only survived this apocalyptic event but went on to thrive in the aftermath, eventually evolving into the diverse group of animals we see today. The survival of these early mammals sheds light on their remarkable resilience and the evolutionary traits that allowed them to endure one of the most devastating mass extinctions in Earth's history. One key factor in the survival of small mammals was their size. Being small had several advantages during and after the extinction event. The asteroid impact that struck what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico caused massive wildfires, tsunamis, and a nuclear winter effect, where dust and debris blocked out sunlight for months or even years. This led to a drastic drop in temperatures and a collapse of plant life, which in turn caused herbivorous dinosaurs to die out. Large animals, particularly the dinosaurs, struggled to survive in these new conditions because they required vast amounts of food and stable ecosystems to support their massive bodies. Small mammals, on the other hand, required far fewer resources and were better able to find food in a world where vegetation was scarce. Additionally, many mammals were likely omnivorous, which gave them a significant advantage over the more specialized diets of dinosaurs. While large herbivores depended on plants and large carnivores on fresh meat, mammals could survive on a variety of food sources, including insects, small vertebrates, seeds, and even detritus. This dietary flexibility made them more adaptable to the rapidly changing environment after the asteroid impact, where many other food sources disappeared. The ability to eat a wide range of foods likely played a critical role in their survival. Another crucial survival trait of early mammals was their ability to burrow or find shelter underground. Fossil evidence suggests that some mammals were burrowers, which would have allowed them to escape the immediate destruction caused by the asteroid impact, such as the intense heat from wildfires and the fallout of debris. Burrowing mammals could have hidden from the worst of the environmental effects, emerging when conditions stabilized. This behavior also protected them from predators and allowed them to maintain their body temperatures, which was essential for surviving the harsh climate changes that followed the impact. Mammals' reproductive strategies may have also given them a survival advantage. Unlike dinosaurs, which laid eggs, many early mammals gave birth to live young, providing immediate care and protection to their offspring. Live birth allows for more flexibility in harsh environments because it eliminates the need to find safe places to lay eggs and reduces the vulnerability of young to environmental threats or predators. Additionally, mammals could raise smaller litters in secure environments like burrows, giving their young a better chance of survival in a post-apocalyptic world. These factors, small size, dietary flexibility, burrowing behavior, and reproductive strategies, combined to make early mammals highly resilient in the face of the mass extinction that wiped out the dinosaurs. Their ability to adapt to rapidly changing environments and survive on limited resources allowed them to not only persist, but flourish in the aftermath of the extinction. Once the dinosaurs were gone, mammals rapidly diversified, filling the ecological niches left behind by their extinct contemporaries, and eventually leading to the rise of modern mammals, including humans. What evidence do we have about how dinosaurs might have communicated with each other, and how could their vocalizations have evolved over time? The question of how dinosaurs communicated is one of the most intriguing aspects of paleontology, as vocalizations leave no direct fossil record. However, through a combination of anatomical studies, comparisons with modern animals, and fossil evidence, scientists have been able to infer some potential methods dinosaurs might have used to communicate with one another. From roaring and hissing to more subtle sounds like chirps and rumbles, it's likely that different species of dinosaurs employed a variety of vocalizations depending on their size, social behavior, and environment. One of the key pieces of evidence for dinosaur communication comes from the discovery of fossilized dinosaur skulls, which reveal clues about their vocal anatomy. Some theropods, like Tyrannosaurus rex, had large, robust skulls with complex nasal passages that might have been capable of producing deep, resonant sounds similar to the low-frequency rumbles of modern crocodiles or large birds like ostriches. These deep, low-frequency sounds would have been ideal for long-distance communication, particularly in dense forests or across vast plains. Low-frequency sounds travel farther than higher-pitched noises, which would have allowed dinosaurs to communicate over long distances, possibly to assert territory or attract mates. Another line of evidence comes from the study of hadrosaur dinosaurs, particularly those with crests like Parasaurolophus. Fossilized skulls of these duck-billed dinosaurs show that their crests were hollow, with a complex network of tubes. This structure has led scientists to speculate that these crests could have been used to produce trumpet-like sounds. By blowing air through these tubes, hadrosaurs might have created low-pitched calls used for communication within herds or for mating displays. Similar to how modern animals use unique calls for identification, these sounds could have allowed hadrosaurs to recognize one another, maintain group cohesion, or even warn of approaching predators. In addition to vocalizations, dinosaurs may have communicated through visual displays. Large herbivores like Stegosaurus or Triceratops, with their prominent plates, horns, and frills, might have used their features for display during mating rituals or territorial disputes. These physical features, along with their posture and body language, likely played a significant role in their communication. For example, a Triceratops could have displayed its large frill to signal dominance or to intimidate rivals without the need for vocal sound. Modern-day birds, which are the closest living relatives of dinosaurs, provide another insight into potential dinosaur vocalizations. Birds use a syrinx, a unique vocal organ located at the base of the trachea, to produce a wide variety of complex sounds, including songs, chirps, and calls. While fossil evidence of the syrinx in dinosaurs has not been found, the fact that birds evolved this organ from theropod ancestors suggests that some dinosaurs may have had similar, if not identical, vocal capabilities. Smaller theropods like Velociraptor or Deinonychus may have produced bird-like calls to communicate within their packs or with their offspring. Additionally, the environment in which dinosaurs lived likely shaped how they communicated. Dinosaurs that inhabited open plains might have relied on louder, more resonant sounds to communicate across long distances, while those that lived in dense forests could have used softer, higher-pitched sounds like chirps or calls that carried well through foliage. It's also possible that some dinosaurs combined vocalizations with other forms of communication like foot stomping or tail swinging to create vibrations that other dinosaurs could sense. In summary, while no fossilized roar has ever been found, the combination of anatomical evidence and comparisons to modern animals suggests that dinosaurs communicated in a variety of ways. From deep, resonant calls to high-pitched chirps and even visual signals, dinosaurs likely evolved a rich set of communication tools to interact with one another. Could large dinosaurs like Tyrannosaurus rex or Brachiosaurus have been capable of making the iconic roars we associate with them? Or is that just a Hollywood myth? The image of Tyrannosaurus rex letting out a deafening roar, popularized by films like Jurassic Park, is iconic in popular culture. However, the reality of what dinosaurs like T-Rex and Brachiosaurus sounded like is likely very different from what we imagine. The idea that large dinosaurs could have produced earth-shaking roars may be more Hollywood fantasy than scientific fact. For one, modern reptiles and birds, the closest living relatives to dinosaurs, tend not to produce the kind of sustained, loud roars we associate with large mammals like lions or tigers. Crocodiles and alligators, which share common ancestry with dinosaurs, produce low-frequency sounds like rumbles or bellows rather than roars. These vocalizations are used for mating, territorial defense, or warning rivals, and are often much quieter than the iconic dinosaur roars seen in movies. Similarly, birds can produce loud calls and songs, but their sounds are typically more musical or shrill than the guttural roars attributed to dinosaurs. In fact, it's possible that T-Rex may have communicated more through low-frequency sounds, similar to infrasound, than loud roars. Infrasound, low-frequency vibrations below the range of human hearing, can travel long distances and is used by large animals like elephants to communicate across vast landscapes. If T-Rex produced infrasound, it could have been a way to signal to others over large territories without relying on loud vocalizations. This would have been especially useful for dinosaurs living in open environments, where sound needs to travel long distances to reach other individuals. As for Brachiosaurus and other large sauropods, their ability to produce loud vocalizations is even more in question. These gigantic herbivores likely communicated through deep, resonant sounds, such as rumbles or grunts rather than roars. Their enormous body size and long necks might have allowed them to produce low-pitched vocalizations, but these sounds would have been far more subdued and probably less dramatic than Hollywood's portrayal of thundering roars. Additionally, their respiratory systems, designed to efficiently pump air through their long necks and massive bodies, may have been better suited for low, deep vibrations rather than the high-decibel roars often depicted in media. Another limitation is the structure of their vocal anatomy. Dinosaurs lacked the larynx, the vocal structure found in mammals that is essential for producing loud roars. Instead, like modern birds, dinosaurs would have used other vocal mechanisms, potentially including the syrinx or other soft tissue structures that are less capable of producing loud, roaring sounds. Without the complex vocal cords that mammals possess, dinosaurs would have been restricted in the kinds of vocalizations they could produce. The roaring dinosaur trope largely stems from the need for dramatic effect in films and TV shows, where sound design plays a major role in creating excitement and tension. In Jurassic Park, the roar of T-Rex was famously created by blending the sounds of multiple animals, including elephants, tigers, and alligators, to create an intimidating cinematic roar that had little basis in actual dinosaur biology. In conclusion, while it's unlikely that dinosaurs like T-Rex or Brachiosaurus roared as we see in movies, they likely produced deep, resonant sounds that suited their size and environment. These low-frequency sounds, which may have included infrasound, would have been highly effective for long-distance communication. The idea of roaring dinosaurs while thrilling on screen is largely a product of Hollywood imagination rather than paleontological evidence. What evolutionary pressures led to the gigantic size of species like Argentinosaurus, and how did this impact their survival and dominance in prehistoric ecosystems? The colossal size of dinosaurs like Argentinosaurus, one of the largest known land animals, potentially reaching over 30 meters in length and weighing up to 100 tons, has fascinated scientists for years. Understanding why some species of dinosaurs grew to such enormous sizes requires an exploration of the unique evolutionary pressures that shaped their development and the advantages that gigantism offered in prehistoric ecosystems. One of the key evolutionary drivers behind the massive size of dinosaurs, particularly sauropods like Argentinosaurus, was likely their feeding strategy. These herbivorous giants lived in ecosystems where vegetation was abundant but sometimes out of reach for smaller animals. The long necks of sauropods allowed them to browse high in the treetops, accessing food sources that were unavailable to other herbivores. This ability to feed on tall coniferous trees or other high vegetation gave sauropods a significant ecological advantage as they faced less competition for food. By growing larger, they could exploit a niche that other dinosaurs could not, securing a plentiful supply of resources and minimizing competition with smaller herbivores that grazed closer to the ground. Another factor contributing to their size was protection from predators. While large carnivorous dinosaurs like Tyrannosaurus rex or Allosaurus were formidable hunters, fully grown sauropods would have been too large for most predators to attack. Predators would likely have targeted younger or weaker individuals, leaving the massive adults relatively safe. In this sense, gigantism acted as a form of predator deterrence, allowing large dinosaurs to avoid the constant threat of predation faced by smaller animals. The sheer size of dinosaurs like Argentinosaurus also contributed to their thermoregulation. Large animals have a lower surface area relative to their body mass, which allows them to retain heat more effectively. In the warm climates of the Mesozoic era, this would have been an advantage, helping these massive creatures maintain a stable internal temperature even in fluctuating environmental conditions. Gigantic size may have acted as a form of natural insulation, ensuring that these creatures could regulate their body heat without needing to constantly seek out shade or cool water sources. Sauropods' size also allowed them to develop efficient digestive systems. With their enormous bodies, they could consume vast quantities of low-nutrient plant material and process it over a long period of time. Their large stomachs and extended intestines provided plenty of space for slow digestion and fermentation, breaking down tough, fibrous plant matter. This allowed them to survive on food that smaller animals might not have been able to digest effectively, giving them a distinct survival advantage in certain ecosystems. However, while gigantism offered many benefits, it also came with challenges. The energy required to sustain such massive bodies was immense, meaning these animals had to consume vast amounts of food daily. This dependency on large quantities of vegetation could have made them vulnerable to environmental changes, such as droughts or shifts in vegetation patterns that reduced their food supply. In addition, their massive size made reproduction more complex, as large animals typically reproduce more slowly than smaller ones. Long gestation periods and fewer offspring meant that large sauropods were likely slow to recover from population losses, making them more susceptible to extinction pressures in the long term. In summary, the gigantic size of dinosaurs like Dinosaurs was driven by a combination of feeding strategies, predator deterrence, and thermoregulation advantages. While their size allowed them to dominate their ecosystems, it also came with trade-offs, particularly in terms of energy needs and reproductive challenges. Nevertheless, their massive scale remains one of the most remarkable aspects of dinosaur evolution, shaping their dominance in prehistoric ecosystems. How did the structure of prehistoric ecosystems support the existence of such massive creatures, and could ecosystems today sustain animals of comparable size? Prehistoric ecosystems, particularly during the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods, were uniquely structured in ways that supported the existence of massive creatures like Dinosaurs, Brachiosaurus, and Spinosaurus. Several factors ranging from climate and vegetation to atmospheric composition created an environment where these giants could thrive, but replicating such conditions in today's world would be nearly impossible. One of the primary factors supporting the existence of gigantic dinosaurs was the abundance of plant life in prehistoric ecosystems. The climate during the Mesozoic era was much warmer than today, with no polar ice caps and little seasonal variation. This warm, humid environment allowed for year-round plant growth, creating a continuous supply of food for herbivorous dinosaurs. Vast forests of ferns, cycads, conifers, and other ancient plants provided the necessary nutrients to support the massive appetites of sauropods and other herbivores. These rich plant resources were critical in sustaining such large animals, whose sheer size required enormous amounts of food each day. Additionally, the higher levels of carbon dioxide, CO2, in the atmosphere during the Mesozoic contributed to the rapid growth of vegetation. Fossil evidence indicates that CO2 levels were significantly higher than they are today, likely promoting faster plant growth and higher levels of biomass production. This abundance of plant material created the ecological foundation necessary to support herbivores that needed to consume hundreds of kilograms of food daily. The faster-growing, denser vegetation would have provided a reliable and abundant food source, essential for the survival of such enormous creatures. The structure of food chains in prehistoric ecosystems also contributed to the sustainability of large dinosaurs. Unlike today, where large predators like lions or tigers sit at the top of the food chain, prehistoric ecosystems were dominated by dinosaurs that often occupied different ecological niches. The presence of mega herbivores like sauropods and top predators like T-Rex was balanced by smaller carnivores, scavengers, and omnivores that ensured the efficient recycling of energy within the ecosystem. These ecological roles were finely tuned to support a complex web of life, with each species contributing to the balance of the system. Furthermore, the oxygen levels during parts of the Mesozoic era may have been higher than they are today, potentially aiding the respiratory efficiency of large animals. While this is still debated, some studies suggest that elevated oxygen levels could have supported the larger body sizes of dinosaurs by allowing for more efficient metabolic processes. Dinosaurs are believed to have had highly efficient respiratory systems, similar to modern birds, which would have helped them extract oxygen from the air and maintain their massive bodies. In contrast, modern ecosystems would likely struggle to support animals of comparable size. Today's climates, particularly in regions where large herbivores live, are often subject to seasonal changes that limit the year-round availability of food. The CO2 levels are lower and ecosystems are more fragmented, reducing the amount of continuous vegetation needed to sustain large populations of herbivores. Additionally, human activity, such as deforestation, agriculture, and urban development, has dramatically reduced the available habitats that could support large animals. Modern megafauna such as elephants or whales provide a glimpse of what is still possible in terms of size, but even these animals are much smaller than the largest dinosaurs. Elephants, for instance, face constant challenges related to habitat loss, human conflict, and food availability, all of which would be exacerbated for animals of the size of sauropods. Furthermore, today's ecosystems are more sensitive to environmental changes due to climate change and human impact, meaning that the delicate balance required to support such massive creatures would be difficult to achieve. In conclusion, prehistoric ecosystems were structured in ways that made it possible for massive dinosaurs to thrive. Abundant plant life, rich CO2 levels, and a well-balanced food chain provided the conditions necessary to sustain their enormous size. However, in today's world, such ecosystems no longer exist, and the environmental pressures we face would make it nearly impossible for creatures the size of Argentinosaurus to survive in modern habitats. What gaps remain in the fossil record, and how do these missing pieces impact our understanding of dinosaur evolution? Despite the numerous discoveries of dinosaur fossils over the past century, significant gaps remain in the fossil record that limit our understanding of dinosaur evolution. Fossilization is an incredibly rare process, and the conditions required to preserve bones or impressions for millions of years are so specific that much of the prehistoric world is lost to time. These gaps in the fossil record present challenges for scientists trying to reconstruct the full story of dinosaur life, diversity, and extinction. One major gap lies in the early evolution of dinosaurs. While we have many fossils from the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods, the earlier Triassic period, where dinosaurs first emerged, is less well documented. The earliest dinosaurs appeared around 230 million years ago, but only a few fossils from this critical time in their evolution have been discovered. Species like Herrerasaurus and Eoraptor are among the oldest known dinosaurs, but the lack of fossils from other regions makes it difficult to understand the exact origins of dinosaurs and how they diversified into the myriad forms seen later in the Mesozoic. Without more fossils from the Triassic, we can only speculate about the evolutionary pressures and environmental conditions that gave rise to these ancient creatures. In addition to the early days of dinosaur evolution, another significant gap exists in our understanding of the diversity of smaller species. While large dinosaurs like Tyrannosaurus rex, Triceratops, and Brachiosaurus are well represented in the fossil record, smaller species are often underrepresented. This is because smaller animals, with lighter and more fragile bones, are less likely to be preserved than larger animals with denser skeletons. As a result, we may be missing a huge portion of the dinosaur population that played vital roles in the ecosystems of the time. For instance, small bird-like theropods may have been much more common than we currently know, filling niches as scavengers, insectivores, or small prey. The absence of more complete fossil records of these smaller species skews our understanding of how ecosystems functioned and which dinosaurs were the most ecologically important. The geographical distribution of fossils also highlights significant gaps. Dinosaur fossils have been discovered on every continent, but some regions are much better represented than others. North America and China have provided a wealth of well-preserved fossils thanks to extensive research and favorable geological conditions. However, Regions like Africa, Australia, and parts of Asia remain relatively underexplored. This uneven distribution of fossils leaves gaps in our understanding of global dinosaur diversity and evolution. Dinosaurs existed on Pangaea, the supercontinent, that eventually split into the continents we know today. So it's likely that species evolved differently in isolated environments. More fossil discoveries from underrepresented areas could shed light on unique species and evolutionary pathways that we currently know little about. Another gap lies in soft tissue preservation. While fossils typically preserve hard materials like bones, teeth, and claws, soft tissues such as muscles, skin, and internal organs rarely fossilize. This limits our understanding of dinosaur physiology and appearance. For example, we know that many dinosaurs had feathers, but without more widespread preservation of skin or feather impressions, it's difficult to determine the full extent of feathered species. Did all theropods have feathers? Did large dinosaurs like T-Rex have feathers during some stage of their life cycle? The lack of soft tissue fossils makes it challenging to answer these questions definitively. Lastly, there's still much we don't know about dinosaur behavior, which is rarely preserved in fossils. Fossilized footprints, nests, and rare trackways provide some insight into how dinosaurs lived, traveled, and raised their young. But most behavior leaves no trace. For instance, the social structures of dinosaurs are largely speculative. Did certain species live in herds or packs, as suggested by some fossilized trackways, or were they solitary? Without more evidence, we can only hypothesize about the complex interactions between dinosaurs and their environments. In conclusion, the gaps in the dinosaur fossil record leave major questions about their evolution, diversity, and behavior unanswered. These missing pieces hinder our ability to form a complete picture of the world dinosaurs inhabited. And as paleontologists continue to make new discoveries, we can expect our understanding of these ancient creatures to evolve. However, until more fossils are unearthed from underrepresented regions and more early species are discovered, significant mysteries about dinosaur life will remain. Saw 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 life will remain. How might future fossil discoveries change our understanding of dinosaur extinction and the rise of mammals? The story of the dinosaur extinction 66 million years ago is well known, with the Chicxulub asteroid impact often considered the primary cause. However, this narrative may evolve as new fossils are discovered, especially in relation to the role of climate change, volcanic activity, and how ecosystems were already changing before the asteroid impact. Future fossil discoveries could help clarify the sequence of events leading up to the extinction and provide deeper insight into how different species responded to the environmental crises of the time. One area where future fossil finds could have a significant impact is in understanding how various species fared during the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event. Fossils from the final 500,000 years before the extinction are relatively rare, leaving gaps in our knowledge of what was happening in dinosaur ecosystems just before the asteroid struck. Some paleontologists believe that dinosaurs were already in decline due to volcanic activity from the Deccan Traps, which released massive amounts of carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere, leading to acid rain and global warming. Additional fossil discoveries from this critical period could provide evidence of whether dinosaurs were thriving or struggling before the asteroid impact, thus giving a clearer picture of the extinction event. New fossils could also reveal how early mammals survived the extinction. We know that small mammals were able to adapt and survive in the radically changing environment, eventually evolving into the diverse mammalian species that dominate today. However, the specific evolutionary strategies that allowed mammals to survive while dinosaurs perished are still not fully understood. Fossilized burrows, teeth, and other remains of early mammals could shed light on how these creatures endured the harsh post-impact conditions, possibly by going underground, surviving on a diverse diet, or reproducing more rapidly than larger species. Additionally, future discoveries could change our understanding of dinosaur-mammal interactions. Fossils revealing evidence of mammal-dinosaur predation or competition for resources could rewrite the story of how mammals rose to prominence. Currently, the prevailing theory is that mammals were largely nocturnal and avoided direct competition with dinosaurs. However, new finds could reveal that some mammals were more active or aggressive than previously thought, potentially hunting small dinosaurs or exploiting niches left open by their decline. Furthermore, fossils from previously underexplored regions, such as Antarctica, could provide vital clues about how global climates impacted dinosaur populations. If dinosaurs were able to survive in the cooler climates of ancient Antarctica, these fossils could offer insights into how some species adapted to harsh environments and whether these adaptations played a role in their survival leading up to the extinction event. Conversely, fossils showing drastic declines in certain species could suggest that climate change had already begun to decimate populations even before the asteroid struck. As paleontologists continue to make new discoveries, particularly from regions and periods that are currently underrepresented in the fossil record, we can expect our understanding of the dinosaur extinction and the subsequent rise of mammals to shift. These fossils hold the key to unraveling the complex web of factors that led to one of the most significant events in Earth's history, potentially changing the way we view both the end of the dinosaurs and the dawn of the age of mammals. How advanced were the sensory abilities of dinosaurs like T-Rex, and did their keen senses contribute to their dominance as apex predators? The sensory abilities of Tyrannosaurus rex, one of the most iconic apex predators of the late Cretaceous period, were likely highly advanced, playing a crucial role in its dominance. Fossil evidence, combined with modern analogues from birds and reptiles, which share common ancestry with dinosaurs, suggests that T-Rex had an exceptional array of senses that helped it locate, hunt, and overpower prey. One of T-Rex's most developed senses was likely its sense of smell. The olfactory bulbs in its brain, the region responsible for processing smells, were particularly large, as seen in fossilized skulls. This suggests that T-Rex had a highly acute sense of smell, possibly comparable to that of modern vultures or wolves, which use scent to detect food over vast distances. T-Rex may have been able to smell prey or carrion from miles away, making it an effective hunter and scavenger. This ability would have been critical for survival, especially in the dense forests or open plains of the late Cretaceous, where visibility could have been limited. In addition to its sense of smell, T-Rex is believed to have had excellent vision. Studies of the orbital cavities, eye sockets, indicate that T-Rex had forward-facing eyes, giving it binocular vision, the ability to perceive depth. This trait is essential for predators that rely on accurate distance perception to strike effectively at prey. Its eyes were also large, meaning it could likely see well even in low-light conditions, such as during dusk or dawn when some prey might have been more active. While Hollywood often portrays T-Rex as having poor eyesight, scientific evidence suggests that it could have had better visual acuity than many modern birds of prey, such as hawks or eagles. T-Rex's hearing was also likely well developed, particularly for low-frequency sounds. Fossil studies of the ear structure indicate that it could have been sensitive to low-frequency vibrations, which travel farther than high-pitched sounds. This might have allowed T-Rex to detect the footsteps or calls of distant prey or other dinosaurs, giving it an advantage in tracking down food. Additionally, being able to hear low frequencies could have helped in sensing environmental cues, such as approaching storms or other dangers. These sensory advantages, superior smell, keen vision, and good hearing, would have made T-Rex an exceptionally efficient predator, whether hunting live prey or scavenging the carcasses of other dinosaurs. T-Rex's ability to detect food sources over long distances contributed to its position at the top of the food chain. Its sensory skills not only made it an effective hunter, but also likely allowed it to monitor its surroundings for competitors or threats, further solidifying its dominance in the ecosystems it inhabited. What do fossilized evidence and modern analogues suggest about how herbivorous dinosaurs, like Triceratops, used their senses to avoid predators? While herbivorous dinosaurs like Triceratops did not rely on the predatory skills of T-Rex, they likely evolved highly specialized senses to help them survive in a world full of predators. Fossilized evidence, particularly studies of skull structure and comparisons to modern animals, suggests that Triceratops had keen senses that played an important role in detecting threats and evading predators. First and foremost, sight would have been critical for Triceratops, as it was for most herbivores that needed to remain vigilant to avoid predators. Triceratops had large, laterally positioned eyes, which provided a wide field of view. This is a common trait among prey animals today, such as deer or zebras, which have eyes positioned on the sides of their heads to detect movement and threats from almost every angle. This would have been especially useful for Triceratops, as it would have needed to spot approaching predators like T-Rex early enough to either flee or prepare to defend itself. Triceratops also likely had a well-developed sense of smell, though not as refined as T-Rex's. The nasal cavity in Triceratops skulls is relatively large, indicating that they could have used their sense of smell to detect predators, even if they were hidden or far away. This sense would have been particularly valuable in dense vegetation, where visual cues might have been obscured. A strong sense of smell would have allowed Triceratops to sniff the air for the scent of a lurking predator and react accordingly. When it came to hearing, it's likely that Triceratops could detect low-frequency sounds, much like many large modern herbivores. Fossilized ear structures suggest that it could have been sensitive to the ground vibrations caused by the footsteps of large carnivores or the vocalizations of other dinosaurs. This sensitivity to vibrations could have been a key survival tool, alerting Triceratops to the presence of predators long before they were visible. Finally, Triceratops's impressive frill and horns were not just physical defenses, but could have also been used in communication. Modern analogues, like rhinos and certain horned mammals, use body language and posture to warn others of danger or to establish dominance within their groups. It's possible that Triceratops used its frill and horns in similar ways, perhaps flashing its frill or lowering its head to signal a readiness to defend itself when threatened by predators. In summary, Triceratops likely had a combination of strong senses, particularly sight, smell, and hearing, that helped it detect predators like T-Rex. These sensory adaptations, combined with its formidable physical defenses, allowed Triceratops to survive in a dangerous, predator-filled world. What evidence supports the theory that some species of dinosaurs, particularly large herbivores, migrated seasonally in search of food? The theory that some species of dinosaurs, particularly large herbivores like sauropods and hadrosaurs, migrated seasonally in search of food is supported by a variety of geological and fossil evidence. While direct evidence of dinosaur migration is hard to come by, several clues point to the possibility that these giant creatures moved over long distances, much like modern herbivores such as elephants and wildebeests, in response to changing environments and resource availability. One of the most compelling lines of evidence for dinosaur migration comes from the discovery of fossilized trackways. In places like the western United States, particularly in Wyoming and Utah, scientists have found long, continuous trails of footprints left by groups of large dinosaurs. These trackways suggest that these dinosaurs were traveling in herds across great distances, possibly in search of food or more favorable climates. In some cases, the direction of the trackways aligns with what we would expect for seasonal migrations, such as moving from highlands to lowlands as the seasons changed and food became scarce. Additionally, isotopic analysis of dinosaur teeth and bones provides evidence for migration. Isotopes of certain elements, like oxygen and carbon, can vary depending on the environment an animal lived in, particularly the local water and vegetation it consumed. By analyzing the chemical makeup of dinosaur teeth, researchers can determine whether the animal stayed in one region or moved between different environments throughout its life. Some studies of hadrosaur teeth, for instance, show isotopic variations that indicate these dinosaurs moved from coastal regions to inland areas, likely as part of a seasonal migration to find fresh vegetation as food sources became depleted. Fossil evidence also suggests that certain dinosaur nesting grounds were used repeatedly over time, much like modern migratory animals return to the same breeding areas year after year. In places like Montana, large nesting sites for dinosaurs like Maiasaura have been found, with layer upon layer of fossilized eggs and juveniles. This implies that these dinosaurs may have migrated to specific regions during the breeding season, much like sea turtles or birds do today, returning to the same location each year to lay eggs and raise their young before moving on to new feeding grounds. Moreover, the climate conditions during the Mesozoic era likely played a role in driving migration. Fossilized plant and pollen records indicate that certain regions experienced seasonal fluctuations in temperature and rainfall which would have affected the availability of vegetation. Large herbivores, which needed massive amounts of plant material to survive, would have been particularly sensitive to these environmental changes. During dry seasons, it's likely that food sources in certain areas would have dwindled, forcing dinosaurs to migrate to more fertile areas where vegetation was still abundant. In conclusion, while direct evidence of dinosaur migration is challenging to find, fossilized trackways, isotopic analysis, and nesting sites provide strong clues that some species of dinosaurs, particularly large herbivores, migrated seasonally in search of food. These migrations would have been critical for survival in environments where food availability fluctuated with the seasons. Could climate shifts or environmental changes have triggered large-scale migrations among dinosaurs? And how might these migrations have shaped their ecosystems? Climate shifts and environmental changes likely played a crucial role in triggering large-scale migrations among dinosaurs, particularly during periods of significant climate fluctuation in the Mesozoic era. Much like modern animals, dinosaurs would have been highly attuned to their environment, migrating in response to changes in temperature, precipitation, and food availability. These migrations could have had profound impacts on their ecosystems, shaping the distribution of resources and influencing the behavior of other species. During the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods, Earth experienced several episodes of climate change, including fluctuations in global temperatures, shifts in sea levels, and changes in the distribution of forests and deserts. Fossil records show evidence of cyclical climate changes, with some regions experiencing long wet and dry seasons. These shifts would have caused dramatic changes in the availability of vegetation, particularly in areas prone to seasonal droughts. Large herbivores such as hadrosaurs, ceratopsians, and sauropods, which depended on vast amounts of plant material, likely moved in response to these changes, migrating to areas where food was more plentiful. For example, polar dinosaurs, species that lived near what are now the poles, might have migrated to escape harsh winters or long periods of darkness. Fossils of dinosaurs like Edmontosaurus have been found in the high latitudes of Alaska, suggesting that these dinosaurs lived near the poles during warmer months. However, the cold, dark winters in these regions likely forced them to migrate to lower latitudes in search of more hospitable conditions. These migrations would have been driven by the seasonal changes in temperature and food availability, much like the migrations of modern animals like caribou or reindeer. Large-scale migrations would not only have shaped the behavior and survival of the dinosaurs themselves, but also would have had significant effects on their ecosystems. When vast herds of herbivores moved through an area, they would have consumed enormous quantities of vegetation, transforming the landscape in their wake. This could have opened up new niches for other species, such as smaller herbivores, that could feed on the regrowth of plants, or carnivores that followed the migrating herds to hunt. In this way, dinosaur migrations could have created dynamic ecosystems, with different species benefiting from the movement of large herbivores across the landscape. Additionally, dinosaur migrations would have affected nutrient cycles. As herbivorous dinosaurs migrated, they would have deposited large amounts of waste, which would have fertilized the soil and promoted the growth of new plant life. This cycle of movement, grazing, and fertilization would have been essential for maintaining the health and productivity of ecosystems over time. Just as modern migrations by animals like wildebeests in Africa play a crucial role in maintaining the balance of savanna ecosystems, dinosaur migrations may have been a key factor in shaping Mesozoic landscapes. Environmental changes like volcanic activity or sea level fluctuations could have also triggered migrations by altering habitats. For instance, the Deccan Traps volcanic eruptions toward the end of the Cretaceous period would have caused significant environmental disruption, likely prompting dinosaurs to move in search of more stable environments. Rising sea levels could have flooded coastal plains, forcing dinosaurs to retreat to higher ground or inland areas, while the drying of once lush regions might have caused mass migrations in search of water and food. In conclusion, climate shifts and environmental changes likely played a significant role in driving dinosaur migrations, with these large-scale movements shaping the ecosystems in which they lived. By responding to changing conditions, dinosaurs helped maintain the balance of their environments, influencing vegetation cycles, nutrient distribution, and the behaviors of other species. As environmental pressures changed, so too did the patterns of dinosaur migration, reflecting the dynamic and interconnected nature of life during the Mesozoic era. How do recent fossil discoveries, including melanosomes, provide clues about the colors and patterns of dinosaur skin and feathers? Recent breakthroughs in paleontology, particularly the discovery of melanosomes in fossilized feathers and skin, have provided the first solid evidence of the colors and patterns that adorned dinosaurs. Melanosomes are microscopic organelles found in the cells of living animals, responsible for producing pigments that give color to feathers, skin, and hair. By analyzing fossilized melanosomes, scientists have begun to reconstruct the appearance of dinosaurs, offering a glimpse into their true colors and patterns for the first time. The study of feathered dinosaurs has been particularly revealing. Fossils of small theropods, like Dinosaur, Opteryx, and Anchiornis, have preserved delicate feather structures that still contain traces of melanosomes. By comparing the shapes and sizes of these melanosomes to those of modern birds, researchers can infer the colors these dinosaurs may have sported. For example, in Sinosauropteryx, evidence of reddish-brown pigment has been found in a banded pattern along its tail, suggesting that this small dinosaur had a striped, raccoon-like appearance. Similarly, Anchiornis fossils show a range of colors, including black, white, and reddish hues, giving it a striking, almost magpie-like appearance. The discovery of melanosomes in both feathers and skin implies that some dinosaurs had vivid and diverse coloration, much like modern birds. These colors likely served multiple purposes, such as camouflage, display, or temperature regulation. For instance, bright colors could have been used to attract mates or signal dominance, while darker colors may have helped absorb heat or provide camouflage in forested environments. Fossil evidence of Psittacosaurus, a small herbivorous dinosaur, suggests that its color patterning, dark on top and lighter underneath, known as countershading, was likely used for camouflage. This kind of color pattern is seen today in animals like deer and antelope, which use it to blend into their surroundings and avoid predators. Even large dinosaurs may have had more complex coloration than previously imagined. While fossils of Tyrannosaurus rex have not yet yielded direct evidence of color, some scientists speculate that large predators like T-Rex could have had muted, earthy tones, perhaps browns, grays, or greens, to help them blend into their environment as ambush predators. Meanwhile, herbivores like Triceratops might have displayed more vibrant colors in certain areas of their bodies, especially around their frills or horns, which could have been used for social signaling or intimidation during mating displays or territorial disputes. The study of melanosomes has also challenged older assumptions about dinosaur appearance. For much of the 20th century, dinosaurs were depicted as dull, grey or green reptilian creatures, a view based on modern reptiles like lizards and crocodiles. However, the discovery of vibrant coloration in theropods and other dinosaurs suggests that the Mesozoic world was likely much more colorful and dynamic than previously thought, with dinosaurs exhibiting a wide range of hues and patterns. While melanosomes have been found in feathered species, the color of scaly dinosaurs remains harder to determine. Skin impressions from fossils like Hadrosaurus and Edmontosaurus show that some dinosaurs had tough, scaled skin, but without melanosomes preserved in these impressions, reconstructing their exact colors is difficult. However, the presence of patterns in these skin impressions, such as striping or mottling, hints that even scaly dinosaurs could have had intricate color schemes. The discovery of melanosomes in dinosaur fossils has revolutionized our understanding of their appearance, allowing scientists to infer the colors and patterns of some species. These discoveries paint a picture of a much more colorful and diverse Mesozoic world, where dinosaurs used their vibrant appearances for camouflage, display, and survival. Could some dinosaurs have used color and camouflage as a defense mechanism? And what would this suggest about their habitats and predators? Color and camouflage likely played a significant role in the survival strategies of many dinosaurs, particularly herbivores and smaller species that were vulnerable to predators. Just as modern animals use camouflage to blend into their environments and avoid being detected by predators, many dinosaurs would have evolved color patterns that allowed them to hide in plain sight. Fossil evidence, along with comparisons to modern animals, suggests that camouflage was a crucial defense mechanism for dinosaurs living in a variety of habitats, from dense forests to open plains. One of the most compelling examples of dinosaur camouflage comes from Psittacosaurus, a small, bipedal herbivore. Fossils of Psittacosaurus show clear evidence of countershading, a common form of camouflage in which an animal's back is darker than its underside. This type of coloring helps break up the animal's outline, making it harder for predators to spot. By blending into the dappled light of forested environments, Psittacosaurus could have hidden from large carnivores like Tyrannosaurus or velociraptors that hunted by sight. The presence of countershading suggests that Psittacosaurus lived in habitats where visual predators posed a constant threat and where being able to hide in the shadows was a matter of life and death. Camouflage likely varied based on the habitat in which a species lived. Dinosaurs that lived in forests or dense vegetation, such as Protoceratops or certain hadrosaurs, may have developed more intricate camouflage patterns like stripes, spots, or mottling, which would have helped them blend into the patchy light of their surroundings. In contrast, dinosaurs living in more open environments like grasslands or deserts might have had simpler color schemes, such as shades of brown, tan, or gray, that helped them blend into the landscape. Sauropods that roamed vast plains, for example, may have relied on their sheer size to deter predators, but juveniles and smaller individuals might have been better camouflaged to avoid detection. Camouflage wouldn't have been limited to just herbivorous dinosaurs. Theropods, like the feathered velociraptor, could have also benefited from color patterns that allowed them to remain hidden while stalking prey. In modern predatory animals like big cats or birds of prey, camouflage is essential for successful ambush hunting, allowing them to get close to their prey without being noticed. Similarly, theropods might have used muted or dappled colors to blend into the underbrush, getting close enough to launch an attack. This would have been particularly effective in forested environments or areas with lots of natural cover, where staying unseen was key to catching prey. The use of color and camouflage in dinosaurs also provides insights into the behavior of their predators. Large predators like Tyrannosaurus rex or Allosaurus likely had keen senses of sight and smell, but they still would have depended on being able to spot prey from a distance. The development of camouflage in prey species suggests that predators relied heavily on their vision to hunt, much like modern predators do today. In response, prey dinosaurs evolved various forms of camouflage to avoid detection, which in turn would have driven predators to become even better at spotting hidden prey. Many dinosaurs likely used color and camouflage as essential defense mechanisms, adapting to their specific habitats to avoid predators. This use of color for concealment suggests that the Mesozoic world was full of complex visual interactions between predators and prey, with survival often depending on an animal's ability to remain unseen. These adaptations paint a picture of dinosaurs as highly attuned to their environments, using color and pattern not only for survival but also as a key aspect of their evolutionary success. How do brain size and fossilized skull structures of dinosaurs like Troodon suggest higher cognitive abilities compared to other species? The dinosaur Troodon is often considered one of the smartest non-avian dinosaurs based on its brain size and skull structure. Fossil evidence reveals that Troodon had a relatively large brain-to-body ratio compared to other dinosaurs, a key indicator of cognitive abilities in modern animals. This brain-to-body ratio is referred to as the encephalization quotient, EQ, a measure commonly used to estimate intelligence in animals. Troodon's high EQ suggests that it may have possessed advanced problem-solving skills, social behaviors, and even learning capabilities, making it one of the most intelligent dinosaurs known to science. One of the most notable features of Troodon's brain is its well-developed optic lobes, indicating excellent vision. This suggests that Troodon was likely a skilled hunter with the ability to track and catch prey using sight, much like modern birds of prey. Additionally, its forward-facing eyes gave it binocular vision, enabling depth perception and precise targeting, which would have been invaluable in hunting smaller, fast-moving animals. Enhanced vision is often linked to higher cognitive processing in animals, as it requires the brain to interpret complex visual information. In addition to vision, Troodon's olfactory bulbs, responsible for processing smell, were relatively large, suggesting that it had a keen sense of smell. While this might not directly indicate higher intelligence, the combination of strong sensory abilities, sight, smell, and potentially hearing, implies that Troodon was well equipped to interpret its surroundings and respond to stimuli, giving it an edge in both hunting and avoiding predators. Troodon's teeth and jaw structure also indicate that it was an omnivore, capable of eating both plants and animals. This dietary flexibility is another sign of higher cognitive abilities, as omnivores typically need to adapt their behavior and foraging strategies to different food sources. Troodon's varied diet would have required it to explore different environments and employ complex behaviors to locate food, further highlighting its potential intelligence. This adaptability in foraging behavior is often seen in modern birds and mammals, which use problem-solving and learning to navigate their surroundings. While brain size alone is not a definitive measure of intelligence, Troodon's relatively large brain, advanced sensory capabilities, and omnivorous diet all suggest that it was one of the most cognitively advanced dinosaurs. Its brain structure and EQ provide a glimpse into how some dinosaurs may have developed more sophisticated behaviors compared to their larger, less agile counterparts. If Troodon had survived the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event, its cognitive abilities might have even allowed it to evolve along a path similar to modern birds or mammals. What evidence exists that some dinosaurs, such as certain theropods, engaged in complex social behaviors or problem-solving, indicating a higher level of intelligence? Evidence for complex social behavior and problem-solving in dinosaurs, particularly among theropods, comes from both fossilized remains and comparisons to modern animals like birds, which are the closest living relatives of dinosaurs. Pack hunting, group nesting, and coordinated defense behaviors all point to a level of social organization and intelligence that goes beyond simple survival instincts. One of the most debated examples of potential social behavior in dinosaurs is the idea of pack hunting among theropods like Deinonychus or Velociraptor. Fossil sites with multiple individuals of these species found together, often near the remains of a larger herbivore, have led some paleontologists to speculate that these dinosaurs hunted in coordinated groups, much like modern wolves or lions. In such pack hunting scenarios, these theropods would have needed to communicate and coordinate their attacks to successfully bring down prey much larger than themselves. This behavior suggests a higher level of social interaction and problem-solving, requiring communication and planning. However, the idea of pack hunting in theropods is still debated. Some scientists argue that the fossil evidence could just as easily point to opportunistic feeding, where multiple predators converged on a kill rather than actively hunting as a group. Despite the debate, the possibility of pack hunting indicates that some theropods may have had the cognitive abilities necessary for complex social behavior and cooperative strategies. Evidence for social behavior in non-predatory dinosaurs also exists. Maiasaura, a type of hadrosaur, is known for its large nesting sites, where multiple individuals laid eggs and raised their young in close proximity. The name Maiasaura means good mother lizard, and fossil evidence supports the idea that these dinosaurs engaged in parental care, a behavior that requires a higher level of intelligence and social structure. Fossils of juvenile Maiasaura show that the young likely stayed in the nest for some time after hatching, suggesting that parents provided protection and possibly food for their offspring. Such behavior indicates that some dinosaurs were capable of nurturing and caring for their young, much like birds and mammals do today, requiring problem-solving abilities and a capacity for social interaction. There is also evidence that theropods like Allosaurus might have engaged in territorial behavior or displays meant to assert dominance or resolve conflicts without physical combat. Fossils of these large predators suggest that they may have used their size, vocalizations, or even visual displays, like lowering their heads or showing off their teeth, to communicate with others of their kind. These behaviors imply a more sophisticated social structure, where individuals understood their place in a hierarchy and could avoid unnecessary conflict. Finally, communication through vocalizations or physical displays likely played an important role in the social lives of some dinosaurs. Fossil evidence of hadrosaurs, such as Parasaurolophus, suggests that their large, hollow crests may have been used to produce sounds, possibly for communication within the herd. These sounds could have been used to warn others of danger, signal mating readiness, or maintain group cohesion during migrations. The ability to produce and interpret sounds for social purposes points to a higher level of cognitive function, as communication requires understanding and responding to external stimuli. Fossil evidence strongly suggests that certain dinosaurs, particularly theropods and some herbivores, engaged in complex social behaviors and demonstrated problem-solving abilities. Whether through potential pack hunting, parental care, territorial displays, or communication, these behaviors indicate a higher level of intelligence in some dinosaur species than previously assumed. Just like their bird descendants, these dinosaurs may have had dynamic social structures that relied on coordination, communication, and adaptability, making them more intelligent than their ancient reputation suggests. Reputation suggests. Reputation suggests. Reputation suggests.